And there was Oxford. Yeah, it's still around. That was fine. And I was going to get friends to a friend.
And it's got stuff like.
I was going to get friends to an event. So I couldn't stop on the sidewalk.
They have a,
They got back. And all of a sudden, well, they're driving. It's your
Okay, yeah, I get you the story right now. That's fine. My name is Joe. But I remember those like emails as well. We see like stories come up that you mentioned. That's how you're I see some stuff that's over games and whatnot. So it's just very much. What did you graduate?
That's, I mean, yeah. I ran yeah, no, I thought that was,
you know, but
that was like BS.
That's usually where I was there. I missed it.
What?
Interesting. So I
Yeah,
took
for once.
I like a lot.
Hello. How are you?
I'm not even exactly sure what happened with the election, but we should have a meeting. And I'll make sure that our,
No, they don't.
Right, you're not even running.
I just,
I'm
Exactly.
yeah, no, like.
But no, they're like,
Again,
So I'll have your contact.
Well, I think
Yeah?
it was just weird.
Feel free to pop in and you have.
What was the tip?
No one in the College of Dentistry gets less than an A. Yeah. So I was looking at all their grade distribution, and like it was weird. Everyone gets A's, so I don't know if that.
No, what the hell is it?
Yeah. So I told him about it.
It's like old folks say.
Be like, you didn't ask me. You didn't check it.
What
I
about what?
asked her today. I thought you were going to sit down and talk.
Maybe he'll change his mind.
Only if they.
No, he broke his phone, that's what I did. I thought it was,
No.
you made a bet like your mom that when his phone broke, yeah.
No, you didn't ask me. Like, don't be an asshole, but unless they provoke you to be an asshole, you know?
Okay.
But ask her today.
He's a betting man, and he's showing that he trusts me.
Yeah.
He wants to show his teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Oh, is that what
I read that story. Ooh, I look at the stuff. Oh,
You need more.
These are the scout toys. Anyone want to see the scout toys?
Yeah.
You want to see the scout toys? You want to see the scout toys?
I'll see the scout toys.
You have to share the copies because when we send you
Oh, yeah, there's more stuff in there.
Should I pass out like the the stuff together, man. Can we do that after? Let's not even settle in first. Yeah. I'm so happy. I list questions. Yeah. Thank you, Arena.
So do you ever see Jen?
Having a what?
So we usually have.
I sit like, don't like take it all the way up. Right there. So yeah, well, I know me too, but you know, art is
Yeah,
pain.
yeah.
I don't think that has anything to do with this, but I'll pretend that it makes sense.
I can make that.
Well, getting that education. Apparently we can't really have students. I didn't even look.
I think anything. It's like getting words
That's
apart.
what we're talking about. No,
Oh. I wasn't doing it.
We've done nothing, going backwards in the past year and a half.
open those,
Oh, yeah, I guess you're right.
so don't touch. Even though I want to also.
You like most story?
And the other one as well. Wait, or actually close that one and put that one on top.
Okay.
And close that one, put this down. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, my hands are kind of busy, yeah.
I'm gonna get Emily, yes. Yes, wireless network login.
It'll be.
You shouldn't, for a guest, I don't think it asks them.
No, it sets
It'll
a
be
password. UPress. There should be a UPress account.
Okay, well, let's see if I can find it. Okay, password two?
And then I think it's
Not yet. Here, Greg, other things. Should we ready and fire? Yes.
So, thank you. I mean,
So hungry.
yeah, I
I
serve
don't
like
eat breakfast.
cash. That one for
I love
I do, how you doing?
Just
looking you in your face and telling you
like what's
all
nice.
about work.
I call it 7.
It's the end there,
Oh, that's right.
yeah, I saw that too.
I am still looking for my brother be able to find me.
Like, okay, say, I know what it is. Sounds like it.
Oh, right.
I assume they're
Pretty fine for some of that.
That's why. Stingy as hell. We have to make time to give you a 7. Oh, jeez.
She's right there. You want
No.
I deal with it a lot.
What?
And, diet.
Oh, come on.
I do it.
Well, I'm gonna grab it.
Like I saw the way you worded it, like,
I'm good, man. You got more stuff?
No, I think we're good.
Why not?
Okay, this is probably not a good idea since he's got has ice in it.
Community table, guys.
Yo, Nate, you're gonna get all wet. The counter.
Yeah, I figured that, thanks.
Why is there a bag of ice?
I don't know why, but I gotta put this.
right there.
I know.
Right now, you're just making a slipping hazard.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
Wow. Greg, stop peeing.
Still being nose trained.
You're Canadian.
Like, somebody, oh, I gotta put this.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, right now.
And now suddenly I'm like,
Well, not me, the student body. It's just like.
You know what I did have?
Something about.
Oh, yeah.
There you are.
What else? We went to,
He was like, oh. Basically, his definition against
It was raining.
shots. And I'm like,
It's no longer there.
Well, there's more.
That's what I was wondering. No way, really? That's hilarious. 2012 for me. We probably overlap. No. 2008 through 2009, 2007. Good time.
I'm really proud of that.
So funny, you know,
Are you running for UPI? So, nice to
Really? That's
That's right.
Hello.
All right, get your food. We're gonna start in a minute. I have to say that this is a good spread. Because the editing team is the one who orders the food. I numbered the year that we had about twice as many people in here and they ordered Bo's bean burritos. That's not a good idea.
Oh. Awkward.
It's a short selection process, I'll tell you that.
Get around there.
But you already ate, right? I did.
Each pizza's completely different.
You that way.
What's that one?
It's a long day.
It's like balsamic.
Yeah, and it's black and usually.
Did a.
My mom's like obsessed with vinegar. I think it smells funny.
Oh, I love it.
Turn 50 to 5 price.
I can deal with vinegar as an ingredient in my food. I cannot eat vinaigrette unless like I ordered Italian dressing with it. It's like really
Greg, you got Eileen in the closet to do that thing.
fresh olive oil out, uncovered overnight. It smells like clean foot. It's the weirdest smell ever. It smells like a foot, but it doesn't smell bad. It kind of also smells like powder. It's the weirdest thing ever. And as strange as that comment is, I can back it up. I was at science time.
Okay.
So it's not as weird as it seems.
Sorry.
It's okay. Pizza is not created with I am grabbing. I say that those are the two things.
There's a plane that
They said something like for the first night of Passover.
In like 2 weeks, who said Passover?
I know, right?
Who said Passover? Was it you? Join the clan. It would be so easy for me to share it with my mom on this diet where she has white flour products. So all I could do is avoid doing this. It would be so easy for me.
Go get your food. Hungry? Not at all?
I'm like a monster.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? We are about to start a fake editor selection. But before I explain how it works, faculty advisor Eileen Prusher is going to explain what happens after this works. Right there.
Hi, everybody. I was actually just went back there because wanted to call up the founding charter of the SMAB, the Student Media Advisory Board. But I think we can just skip that and just say that was founded in, they passed their charter in 2012. And since then, MOC has become a process that is done here at the UP. And then after that, the Student Media Advisory Board, which has professional journalists on it, a retired member of the faculty, and student media leaders from UP Radio, UP, the radio and the TV. And they are actually the ones who ultimately decide who the next editor-in-chief will be. I know that they take great interest in who won at MOC, so it's certainly relevant. But I felt as an advisor, in interest of disclosure, people should know that, just to be, accurate and open, that we can't exactly say that we are choosing the next editor here, but I certainly think it has an impact. You can think of it almost like, you could win in the electoral college, win the popular vote, but not the electoral college, something like that. So that happens next week. Is Neil still here? I don't know if she popped out. Okay.
What time is it next Friday?
Starting at 12:30 on Friday.
Where?
I don't know if they set the actual place. Did you know? It's usually in Live Oak, but
There will be an email.
Right. And I as a faculty advisor and Neil as well, we both decided that though we of course really care about everything that happens here at the UP and take great interest, it would be better for us to not participate in MOC or be a voting member of MOC just because there might be conflict of interest. You can imagine if a faculty advisor supported a candidate other than you, and then you won, you'd sort of go into the next semester feeling like, oh, it's too bad the advisor doesn't have my back. So we never want that kind of situation to occur, and so I wouldn't say we that we can speak as a unit. I felt, and he kind of said, yeah, I think that's probably my sense of it as well, that it would be better for us to just be here as observers and not as active participants in MOC. So we look forward to it. Look forward to SMAB next week, and good luck to all the candidates. Thank you.
All right, just one other thing that Eileen didn't mention.
I'll put this away.
Oh yeah, really, throw that away.
Yeah, thank you to Sonia Isker and Jason Parsley, who are here to help decide, ask questions, think about what it takes to be a leader of the University Press.
So here's a weird thing. It's after the Student Media Advisory Board selects the editor. SG has this weird idea that they get to select the editor. So after that, they have to confirm the editor-in-chief. So whoever wins next week has to go in front of student government. I am just waiting for the day the student government says, no, Emily Block, we don't like you. You're not going to be the editor.
I really wanted them to.
But that day has never come.
No,
right?
Not yet. But if it ever did, then we would sue their asses. So that's just waiting for that to happen. So is the Student Press Law Center. So anyway, you have to go for an SG confirmation, but it's not really.
It stressed me out. They were everyone was unanimous except for me. They decided to go round robin for me, and I was like, come on, just say no. Just say no. Come on.
So this fake process was actually the real process for 12 years here at the University Press until Student Affairs decided it was quote unquote emotional terrorism. But it's based on the process that's used at the Alligator, which was, and shall always be the largest student newspaper in the country.
Koretsky, I'm going to interrupt you. This is the Alligator jar. Anytime you say anything mentioning about the Alligator, you got to put money into it. Thank you.
Larger than Michigan Daily.
Yes, it's the largest one in
In
the
what
country.
circulation?
By circulation.
Where is it? Like, where is it?
University of Florida in beautiful Gainesville, Florida.
Where you say the name though?
So-
That's an initiative.
The process, the reason it's set up like it is that they have professionals interviewing the candidates for editor, and they want to ask very tough, very blunt questions because you guys, I'm sure, maybe have watched the presidential debate where the responses are, crime is bad, you know, I love America, and you really don't get any real details. The alligator wanted to ask questions like journalists ask questions to get answers. Also, it's sort of important to ask tough questions to the candidates, since you guys know the next person is leading the newsroom can deal with it, to deal with those answers. You'll also have a chance to ask questions and give your opinion if you want to. So the selection panel this time is Jason Parsley. Jason is a former UP editor. He won a couple of awards and won a few dollars when he was here. I believe he won over $5,000.
Yes.
And one of those awards, they flew him to Washington, D.C. for a banquet where they gave him an award. Weirdly enough, what did he write to get himself thousands of dollars of awards? He covered student government. The thing here no one wants to do, but is an amazing set of stories that are just funny. It has nothing to do with student government. He did that. When he was here, often like you get asked here, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? He said he wanted to run a gay publication. He wanted to be editor of a gay publication, which of course aren't that many of them. And you would think that's really hard to do. Within 4 years of graduating, he became editor of South Florida Gay News, which is the largest gay publication in the southeastern United States. And he's actually hired people from here, freelance and full-time. His full-time creative director is the former art director here. And we have a couple of people, Brittany among them, who's currently freelancing for Jason. Sonia Isger was editor in college of The Alligator, the largest student newspaper in the country. The same semester she graduated, after being editor, she was outstanding print graduate, which at the University of Florida means you have the highest GPA of anyone graduating the journalism school. They don't really keep records, but they think that's the only time that's ever happened. Since then, she's been a reporter at the Palm Beach Post. Done a lot of weird stuff, both print and online. She's one of the first online reporters, dedicated online reporters they ever had. She also, I don't know, went to attend a high school for a year and then wrote an entire special section of the Palm Beach Post on that. She has a lot of interesting projects like that. And she's married to a Pulitzer-nominated photographer. Emily Block, you should know as your editor, your current editor-in-chief. The current editor-in-chief sits on both the fake panel and the real one. What you might not realize about Emily is she started off her tenure as editor being plagiarized, and she ended her tenure as editor getting the paper stolen. So it's pretty good run. It's pretty good. She's acquitting herself nicely.
She's consistent.
Yeah. And my name's Michael Kretsky. I'm your volunteer advisor. I was the advisor here for 12 years until I was fired 6 years ago. And I'm a working journalist. And like I hire people too, and Ivan's works where I work. And Emily used to be the social media director. So I'm only here because I hope to get cheap labor out of you guys. I don't really care about you people.
I knew that.
All right, so where are our three candidates? All right, you can tell because they're the only guys in here wearing ties.
Here's our most recent.
Ryan, you won the staff vote. Do you want to go first, second, or third?
Second sounds nice.
Second sounds nice.
This is our most recent.
All right, you'll go third.
Strange choice. Second.
Andrew. Oh, no, sorry, Brandon, you got the second amount of staff votes. Do you want to go first or second?
First.
You had to think about it because you knew that I was going to switch it up on you, or you really want to go first?
I will have the actual answer to that.
All right, so you'll go first, Andrew goes second, Ryan goes third. If you two will repair to student government, just hang out. We'll come fetch you in a few minutes. All right, Brendan, sit on the uncomfortable chair, which is actually a piece of lawn furniture from our very first editor.
Sorry, I'm not
All right, so here's how this works. This selection panel asks questions. They don't have to go in any particular order. They don't have to ask the same questions each candidate. You don't have to be nice. The idea is just to like cut through the ball and get some real answers. Ooh, he's got notes. Who wants to go first?
first. Right. So what is the purpose of the UP? What's it here for?
to give the students and anyone in the FAU community the news, to let them know what's going on at FAU.
And what else?
I think that's the news. To help students, lives, work toward having a career in journalism, teach new students, a new career in anything, teach new students, help just everyone
Okay.
try to work for their goal.
To train student
Train,
journalists.
yeah,
Okay,
that's a better
okay.
word.
All right. And you think from the one question we have here that the problem here is exposure?
The biggest problem was exposure, yeah,
What do you mean
When-
exposure?
when we were handing out the surveys for the UP surveys about how we're doing, I went up to people, handed out, most of them circled never for when they read it. Going through the surveys, it seemed like there's a lot of nevers for when they read it, when we're going through them. A lot of the answers just were left blank because people didn't have an answer because they didn't know what was.
How did you know what the UP was?
And he's not in here. Andrew and two other people came into my classroom at the start of last spring semester, and they just talked about the UP. So I just came to the meeting.
Wait, so had you seen the paper before then, or were you aware of the paper?
That was the second week that I was at FAU, like as a student, so I was still relatively new, but now I didn't hear about it before then.
Okay. And so, but it looks like one of your answers here is first way is to increase our content by expanding what we cover. Am I understanding this right? One of the things you're suggesting is that you cover more fraternities and sororities.
That was kind of an example. I'm just talking about just beats in general. Fraternities and sororities, I think someone could just go into that, follow frats around, follow sororities around. When we do stories on them, they tend to get the most views. So I feel for an example, if we follow or write about stuff like the frats and sororities, they will read their own stories and in turn, hopefully will know about the UP and then also in turn read other stories. Another example of stuff to start writing about that we don't really cover for more coverage would be police beat. I talked to one person in here about just going through police reports for the past couple of years, seeing like sexual assaults that don't go.
So we don't have, is there a beat system working right now?
Not necessarily much of a beat as just sections in general. We just have the one news.
So nobody's like reading the police reports?
Not that I'm aware of consistently now.
All right, so what 3 stories would you have? Do you have 3 story ideas?
Yeah, well, there's the football issue that's automatically coming out.
That's
That's sports, okay, that one.
That's a gimme.
The breezeway, every time it rains, I know right now they have a sign saying that they're gonna start doing like maintenance or something on there. Every time it rains, so basically the breezeway gets flooded.
Okay,
For
flooding in
something
the
that has-
breezeway,
yeah.
okay.
The whole presidential race that's gonna come up, we could even do a whole special issue, because there's
You
so
already
much.
do, I think what she's asking is stories that we don't already do.
Okay.
We do football issue.
Plus something
we
you
cover-
need to your university, because everybody's gonna be covering, one hopes, the elections.
Yeah, okay. One thing that I noticed is a couple on-campus living issues, IVA. Specifically, there's a lot of students that, just like their windows or stuff at their room are just blocked by trees. I know one person specifically who's just pissed off about that just because it's basically like you don't have a window in your room. That's just something minor. Another thing about IVA and that I noticed in UVA when I lived there before, their tap water just doesn't.
Brendan, your 3 big stories are leaky breezeway, blocked windows, and bad water.
Well, I mean, so
Give Sonia
that.
like some toe-tingling stories that you want the UP to explore. You don't have to do them, but under your reign, they're gonna get done.
Well, I really want to do more investigative stuff. Like the example, what I said about the police reports. That's we don't know what stories are there, but I feel once we take out this police report, if we follow police beats, just
So you're gonna assign someone to follow those?
yes.
Why haven't you already done that?
I just feel. I mean, I guess I could have, but I was just more, as of right now, as a sports editor, just this semester I've been very focused on making sure the sports section was doing best it
Have
could.
you suggested that to the management, the leadership?
I just thought.
So you wanted to save it as a surprise?
Well, I thought of it like about a week or two ago that like because I was trying to think of ideas, and at that point I was like, you know, like, might
So this
as well
is,
save it, make myself
how long have
something.
you been here?
This is my first semester as an editor. I wrote sports only 2 semesters prior to that, last spring and last fall. This is my first.
So a lot of the comments in the staff votes was you're really new and they don't feel you're ready. So why do you think you're ready to lead this place, being so new?
Because out of all 3 people that are running, I don't think anyone is actually fully ready to do it themselves, and that's just straight
So
up.
why not you?
So, well, not necessarily that. I have a plan. I'm willing to take input from everyone. I want to make it. Right now, we all also have a lot of senior writers that we're going to be not going to have next year, whether it's like Greg, Pat, Wes, all that. So the way we run stuff right now, although it's great, we run it pretty, at least to my knowledge, kind of professionally. We try to at least. But I don't think we're going to be able to do that next semester because we're going to have a lot of new people in, so we're going to have to change what we do, and I think I'll be able to help relate them
Well,
that way.
speaking of that, I believe it said somewhere you've written about 58 or 59 stories.
59, I think.
59 stories this
Yesterday.
semester. So if you become the editor in chief, who's going to fill that huge hole?
And
You
the
said you're
sports-
already going to lose senior writers as is, and then if you become the leader, who's going to fill all that?
As the sports, assuming that's me and Chris Mitzenmeyer are there, junior right here. I already talked about him as being the next sports editor. He currently he's writing a lot himself right now. As of late, he's been writing 2 or 3 articles per week. During basketball season, he was doing 3 or 4 articles per week. So he's also.
Junior, did he talk to you about this?
Yes. So I mean, there is stuff that we'll have to work on. I talked to him about this, like definitely grammar, AP style. We have to work on that. But the fact is, he is willing to put in all that time and go, and I really think he will be able to.
Alright. That's good.
What's your staff look like? Besides Junior, who else is on your staff?
Junior and Chris. That's basically it. There's one other writer.
What is Chris doing?
He's working on that softball story.
Who's not your sports staff, your future staff?
Oh, future staff. Okay. Lynch would be my managing editor, and
Talk to him about that?
yes, and I haven't necessarily thought too far beyond that specifically, because one of the things that, like I said, we're gonna have to change. I think stuff that we did this semester before the next semester, just because of the change of personnel that we have. So I'm not at this point too concerned about who's going to be the news editor. I think we can always find.
I'm not concerned about that?
That's not my biggest concern now.
What's your biggest
What is
concern?
your biggest concern?
Well, I'm more focused on getting, like I said, the police report. Instead of having Megan look for a news editor,
That's news.
oh yeah, but instead of just having pure news, I think we can divulge news into like beats, and I mean we can find an editor, but right
Who's
at
going
this
to
point,
edit
Who's
your
going to
news?
assign the beats?
me, Ryan, me and my managing editor, we'll talk it out. I already talked with one of the people. The one big idea I had right now was the police beats. I already spoke with him.
Okay, I have a specific question. In your application, you mentioned the incident where the flooding happened on campus on the 24th. Everyone knew it was raining and flooding by 7 p.m. that night, that the Twitter account didn't mention the weather, and the story was completed the following day at 4 p.m. So, first of all, what were you doing?
I was in class. I had class, but I also, there was a Facebook editors group. It was known that someone was working, like we brought it up, someone was known that they were writing on the story already, so it was already taken as someone was doing it. But my problem with that was at least even if we're supposed to be giving the student the news, maybe they don't know if they're on their way to FAU, they don't know that most of FAU's flooded. There's cars that are literally being stopped in the middle of the road. They think that, so even something as simple as a tweet, they're like there's flooding at FAU currently.
So let's pretend this day is happening today, and you're on campus, it's Friday, was that Friday? Thursday, so you're on campus and it's flooding, but you're the editor, so what are you going to do now?
Find someone who can write a story, reach out to them. That's
Who?
just that one.
You're telling Sonia in this application that you're going to fix problems that you see. Your answers can't be, I'll get someone. It'll be fine. It'll be great.
I mean, I'm wondering if somebody else, you were here, I'm wondering how, I mean, I'm sure there was an editor who said there's flooding, somebody needs to do something, but yet it didn't get done until the following day and then be treated, for example, or did anything else. So I'm thinking that possibly wasn't enough. I think that's what you're saying. So what exactly would you do to get it done? Do you have somebody who's always here? What are your ideas?
Find someone, something like that's relatively not breaking news because people can see it's raining, but it's timely. You don't
The fact that
necessarily,
it's funny is breaking.
you don't see it foreseen. So I mean, we would just have, I wouldn't have someone necessarily reserved, be like, oh, whenever something new happens, you have to write about it. It's who's available at the time, and let's get
So
it out.
why do
within
you
an
think it didn't get him to show up until the following day at 4?
I really do not know. I thought that was a problem. I didn't bring it up to anyone because I don't think necessarily bringing that up would help at the time, but I don't know because it's already done at that point. Like, I mean, I understand moving for future reference, like you have to know, like we can't do that again, in my opinion. But just saying it at that time.
Have you ever heard the term emergent leadership? It's kind of one of those bullshit words like leadership matrix, but basically what it means is you actually start doing the job before you have the job. So by the time you're going for the job, people are like, yes, totally, you should have that job. So I guess the one theme I'm running through all these questions that Jason and Sonia are asking you is you point out a lot of things. Did you ever mention it? You are in the leadership team, you are in the news meetings, the editors' meetings, Tuesday night Google Hangouts. Did you ever mention any of the things that you think could be done better? Did you ever mention it to any of the other editors?
No, but I feel like that's not exactly what I'm saying at the same point because like I'm saying with the rain, I don't think that has to be brought up after the fact. I mean, imagine I should have mentioned it then that I thought it, but for the most part, most of the things I want to change aren't because I didn't necessarily like the way we did it last semester. I think just the personnel we're going to have next semester, we can't do it the same way because we won't have that same experience.
But you're saying that we're going to lose experienced people.
Yeah.
And you're telling Jason and Sonia and Emily to vote for you because someone will do it. Why should that instill confidence in them to vote for you? Do you have any more concrete?
I guess the
I don't have
question
any like
is,
personnel.
I guess my
people.
question would be, if you want to fix the problem, for example, that breaking news didn't actually get into the paper for 24 hours approximately, then did you go back, since you're a candidate, now I wouldn't ask everybody on staff to know what went wrong, but since you're running for editor and you pointed this out as a problem, did you go and investigate why it didn't get up until 4 p.m. the next day? Okay, so you see where I'm going though?
I do,
Because
but-
like you want to be, if this is something that you think is a problem and you're going to run on the platform that we shouldn't have this problem, then I would want to know, like, okay, well, why? Maybe for all I know, poor Emily came in and the place here was flooded and her computers didn't work and it was a miracle that you got anything out at all. You know what I'm saying?
If it helps, the sports section, we broke 2 stories this semester. Once we heard about the news, we had it go up in an hour, less than 2 hours after we found it, and we were the first to break with it.
Right, so what did you do right that somehow breaking news couldn't do? Why couldn't they get it together?
I mean, as a sports editor, the one I wrote, the other junior wrote. The first one that I wrote, I just found out about it. I actually knew someone in the basketball team. It was an assistant coach that quit. So I found out about it, and we just started. I personally I was available at that time, so I just wrote it right up then and there. The other one, I found another writer who was available, so we just wrote it right then and there. It wasn't at the time. There
Okay,
wasn't
so
any
maybe
thought.
your answer would be, if you were the editor, you'd write it up.
If I'm available, absolutely, 100%.
Okay, so the other thing you're talking about, there's a lot of stuff in your application about promoting the stories in different ways, including is it posters here I'm reading?
Well,
But so I'm wondering, have you done this type of promotion for your, because you have a whole section, right? Have you promoted your stories that way? Have you promoted your
Twitter,
stories?
through the University Press Sports Twitter account, that's going out on campus now.
How effective was the tweeting? Do you have, because you
I
can see
don't
a
have,
tweet.
I honestly don't have any like numbers or anything to see it personally, yeah.
That's too bad, because if that's something you were successful at.
Yeah.
Maybe during the break with this question.
Well, one thing, like I said, I could go with, we've done a lot of, obviously there's the sports Twitter, we tag all them, and We definitely rose our coverage with the softball and with the women's sports that we followed since I've been here. I think we definitely improved that coverage, and we have gained a lot of viewership from the actual players on the team.
They don't have to improve it, so it's just you saying, I'm awesome.
You could look back at the tweets. I mean, no concrete.
Maybe you got more followers, or maybe you got more click through. See, at the post, I know our click through is only like 2%. So actually, tweeting always sounds like a good game. And it's good to get breaking news out, but the click through to get somebody eyes on a story is not so great. And I guess it probably just depends on your platform, but I don't think it's very good in most media.
The only like proof that I could say that we had would be just like when we do softball stories, like at the beginning of the.
How often does the UP tweet? I mean, so you have an official UP, Twitter, and who has? Do you know who has the keys to the Twitter? Does everybody have a password? Can anybody in this room tweet?
No, I don't. I'm not involved.
Have you ever asked?
No.
Have you asked for any of the metrics? So when you're running here today, you'd be able to cite what's going on right now that you don't like and you want to improve. Do you know anything about how many Twitter followers does EP have? Don't look at the boards.
Did you have?
Look at me.
I feel like it has
This week was last.
like 2,500-ish.
You ask him or tell him.
Well, I don't know off the top of my head the exact number.
All right. Can I interrupt these proceedings for a moment? These guys can ask more questions in a minute, but because we're kind of going to the part where we're just taking them on faith. Do you guys have any questions, either A, of this particular candidate, or B, anything you want the selection committee to know about Brendan? And by the way, while you're thinking about that, I just want to introduce you. Dory Zenz, former UPer, ran for editor. Carla Balsher, former editor. They're here to observe. So anybody have anything to say? Because I can tell you when those guys are on staff, people running for editor, they always had something they wanted people to know. Because this might be your next editor. Really, nobody has anything to say.
I think something that I would want to know, if I was at any news publication, is are all sections and groups of people going to at least try to be represented as equally as possible?
Yeah, okay. You know what? That's a good question, but the political answer is going to be yes. So
Yeah, if somebody says no, then we're on
that would be
something
fun.
crazy.
All right?
Yeah,
It's hard to ask. By the way, it's just as hard for him to answer these questions as it is for you guys to ask good questions. If you know one thing about the UP news meetings and editor meetings, one of the most important things we teach here is how to run a good meeting and how to ask a good question. It's not easy.
Lee, I know that a lot of experienced people are going to be leaving. For the process of getting new writers and everything like that, how would be your process of evaluating whether or not you would want them on your staff? And then if you do want them on their staff and you want to get them more experience, how would you promote that learning experience for them? Does that make sense?
I don't know. We're going to see in a minute.
Okay.
Can you try to explain that?
Yeah, like if you want to hire someone, like what would be your qualifications, and then like how would you get them experience enough to have their work viable for the people?
The people that I'd be looking to put on my staff are people that I've seen that are willing to put in all the time that they can, or like that are willing to put in the effort, and that have an idea of what they're doing. Like they know new stuff. Like as long as they're familiar and they've written and they can show they can write.
Let me rephrase this question. You said you got here because someone came and spoke to your class.
Yeah.
How many classes have you spoken to?
Both of them I was in. So I think, but before the semester,
No, you should have stopped the tape.
before the semester,
But your honesty is appreciated.
no, before the semester though, I did email. I think it was Wes at the time, but because I was.
But you're not
so
sure, so I
new.
really don't care about your answer. Like, you
Well,
have to be sure of
I'm
the
not
answer.
sure who the person that
Okay,
emailed is, but I remember.
this is
the
like
email.
any other job interview. If you're not sure, you're not helping yourself by going, I think, like, just don't say that part.
Well,
I'm just trying to help you out.
I emailed someone
Tell me
saying that
what
I'd
you're
be
not
willing to go to any places and let me know what I can do, and I never got anything back from that.
Okay.
Will you go speak to more classes if you're elected editor?
Oh, absolutely. I'm gonna go try to speak to just about every class.
Every class in the university?
Every class that's journalism related, any class that's like photo related, get some.
Okay, that's a promise you're making. All right, great. Patrick.
Brennan, so you talked about breaking news. So how are you going to produce these breaking news stories that won't have any holes and that are still going to have good journalism in a timely manner, knowing that we have a student-run paper that is in classes most of the time?
Well, if there are holes, we're not gonna run it, but obviously, but we're gonna get all the facts that are there that are proven, and we can run those and then update as we go. Like, for example, the rain, we can say there, right now, FAU's experienced flooding, leave it there, and then we can add the facts as we go.
So would that be considered a full story, though?
I mean, I don't,
Embrace it, I don't think it matters.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Let me ask-
What you
Patrick,
call
let
it,
me-
as long as we get it out there.
Let me ask this question. You're the news editor currently. He doesn't have a news editor and doesn't think that maybe he needs a news editor. What do you think about that?
I think that you're gonna need a news editor for the fact that your holes, you don't want them to have, like, you don't wanna have holes in your stories. Like, that you need someone that's gonna have to focus on the larger, realm, especially if you're editor-in-chief. That's a massive responsibility you're putting on yourself.
Also, does that mean he hasn't spoken to you about running or what he would want from news in the future?
I mean, I haven't seen him.
I'm aware that Patrick's leaving, but that doesn't mean you can't talk to the current section editors to see what they would recommend for the future of the section.
I will
That's all I was asking.
argue one thing, that although there wasn't a developed contingency plan, he did come to me and he's
That's
like,
what I
I'm
was
gonna do
asking.
more news.
Thank you.
All right, that's good.
That kind of
All right, Max.
You say you want to improve, like, people knowing that UP exists, get people to read it. What do you plan on doing with the god awful, getting worse every ed selection newsstands that we have going on campus?
The newsstands themselves,
Yes.
just fix them up. I mean, I don't think there's really too much effort, like, there's not much else we can do. We're not gonna remove them, we're not gonna add new ones. I mean, I'd personally be willing to take in the time to fix them up. I never personally thought about that this past semester, but if that's definitely
So
seems
I
like a
still
problem.
look, I wouldn't even want to pick a newspaper.
No, I mean, I'd definitely be willing to put in the personal time to do that, and I hope.
Do you know how many racks we have? Excuse me? You know how many racks we have?
I'm not,
Do you know what our circulation is?
No.
Okay, thanks for the honesty. Greg,
I mean, you're aware that there's about a 33% budget cut coming. If it comes down to it, will you cut Frank if you need to?
probably wouldn't cut it, maybe move it, try to expand each issue and make it more monthly if we had to. More of a each month come out, but
So
cut
cut
it in whole, no.
So did you say you knew what is the budget?
I think we're gonna have roughly around 60,000 available next semester.
don't look at him.
Well, I mean,
It's on your.
I said the number before I looked at it though, so
That's
Fair enough. But you didn't really look this up.
I knew it was around that range.
So if
And
you,
how much of it is print, how much of 60,000 do you spend on printing? Okay.
What
Well,
was-
I'm just
what-
wondering if you're gonna make a decision about
Yeah.
whether to cut print, like Greg asked, and maybe you would know.
are there any last questions for this candidate? We're gonna be reassembled later too.
I have another question. I
No,
just
we'll get
thought
back, we'll do that in a second round. One question.
Okay.
What? You want another question after I just said that?
Yes. Ads. What we have right now is not working. Grant, based on the sole fact that we are paying out of pocket to pay for print ads.
I actually have that on this. I want to go around to just about every business that's within the area and just personally go up and talk to them and see if we can get anything from them.
You're personally gonna be writing news, personally be tweeting, and personally visiting
Yeah, it sounds
advertisers?
like you're doing all of it.
Fixing the bins.
That's
Well,
why you don't have a
Andy's
staff,
gonna
because
have
you're
classes
just
too.
doing it by yourself.
If you
Have you
could
guys
do
ever?
it-
Stop.
Hold on.
We're gonna talk about, have you guys ever recruited a student ad rep?
Right now, we have just the third party, Well, and I'll they do do that. the That sounds national like a handle cool because we job. haven't had a
Person, but look, maybe you
We're
should
gonna
go
talk
talk to
later.
Lee now.
Yeah, we'll talk a little
There you
later.
go, maybe you need to go talk to Lee after this.
All right, can we,
I just have one more question.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So why are you the better candidate of the three?
Because I think I'm the one that would be most willing to take information from everyone. Because like I said, I don't think anyone is absolutely ready to run it by themselves. So I'd be the one that's willing to take it as a whole,
So there's some thought that Andrew and Ryan aren't,
fully to run it by themselves. I don't think any of the three of us.
not ready, I mean, like, so ready's kind of a vague term, so what are you saying is that you could do better?
I think just communication as a whole, making sure we put up what everyone Peter wants us, if there's something that I disagree with, I wouldn't have any problem.
You're a better communicator than
Is that
the
what
other?
you're
There you go,
saying?
there you go,
Yes.
better communication. And I'd be willing to take input from everyone.
Communicate
I
with
just
that.
communicated back
I
to
know, no.
Who's the best writer of the three of you?
Everybody in the room seems to have an idea.
I'm going to go with myself. I don't necessarily read enough of Andrew's prior to the semester and opinion. I'm not going to call that new style writing to a point. And Ryan really just, I read his stuff for the previous semester, but again, this semester he hasn't really written too much. I haven't seen anything at all to judge how he's writing currently. Because,
What was the best story of the semester, and why?
well, my favorite was the boxing.
Who wrote that?
Probably,
Not a bad answer.
And what made it the best?
honestly, the pictures and the quotes.
Ah,
Oh, you ruined
But
it.
the most, I'm being honest, the,
everything you didn't do.
I
Right.
did, oh, well, I mean, I chose. But,
You're really good at self-promotion. I don't know about promoting new people, but your
Okay.
self-promotion is good.
but
The worst story. The worst story of the semester.
The worst story.
Come on, you never thought about this?
No,
Really?
I thought of best, but I didn't actually think of what the worst was.
They were all good.
No. I mean, we've had problems with them.
Name one that had a big problem that you can tell me about.
Okay, another sports one that I was the editor, I didn't write, it was about a basketball player. A lot of it, I'm gonna put the blame on myself for most of it because I did give him a really tight deadline for his first in-print article that we did, but I definitely think there could have been a lot more to the story that we did. It was about a girl who transferred. She was a volleyball player. She turned down a volleyball scholarship to come here and walk on.
What made it bad? Cut to the chase.
There just wasn't enough. It was a little more of just like a little profile about her instead of focusing enough on a specific angle, like more in depth about.
Can you answer Jason's question by telling him the biggest mistake you saw in the UP this semester?
Mistake in this semester.
I think what he's looking for is how you critically analyze the paper. You told him the best story. If you're going to fix problems as a newsroom leader, you have to know what the problems are to fix them. Give Jason an example of something that went wrong.
Content wise.
Right, because we don't care
Could it
about
be
how
something
bad.
I
that
don't
didn't
care
go
if they
actually
missed their
in?
deadline. I
Could it
wanna
be something
know.
that went in print?
How-
Or that didn't go like in print and that we actually, because prior to the transgender story that we were running earlier in the year, I pointed out, I emailed the editor of the story, Black and Greg, because it just wasn't a good story at the time. And there's just a lot of holes in it, and
It's true.
yeah, it just was,
Okay.
And that
Then
was this
it's not
semester?
run.
that was the semester and we didn't run that.
You didn't run it.
No.
Because I had so many problems.
Yeah.
They caught it at the last minute. All right. We reserve the right to recall this witness. So what we're going to do, can you go over and fetch Andrew,
Sure.
hang out there. We're going to have you back with all the three candidates and more questions and stuff later.
Sure.
But if you can fetch Andrew, that would be sweet.
Okay.
Wow.
You guys get a round of applause for the grading, like.
No.
Well, at least.
Well,
This was pretty solid.
So while you mention it, until Andrew comes back over, how do you think he did?
Getting soft.
That's why I said that.
Why did he do terrible?
He sold himself short.
Why did he do terrible?
He wasn't prepared.
Unprepared, anyone else agree or disagree?
It felt like he sold himself short. Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
Like a lot.
Like he wasn't
Like,
saying he was gonna be a leader, he wants like a trifecta leadership or something like that. Like all three of us are gonna do this together.
I feel
So
like,
you
I
mean a
feel like, I feel like
triumvirate.
he wants to have a leadership.
Don't bring up old shit.
But he didn't even make himself seem like the leader of that.
Right, because you guys, I mean, so, don't forget that any of these interviews, even the Student Media Advisory Board one, the real one that's gonna be coming up, when you interview for something like this, you're not just interviewing for the job, you're interviewing with the
Are
staff.
we ready for him? Yeah.
We're ready, come on, settle down, you know this
Thank
process.
you.
Oh, look at this, handout.
2 pages.
Fancy.
Hey, stop making fun of it.
No, it was a compliment.
This is my general plan for general medicine.
Fancy and prepared.
I'm
I'm gonna look on his, I'm gonna pass, it's okay if I pass this around?
Yeah, sure. I got another one.
Thank you. This is Andrew's plan. Pass it around, take a
Most stuff
look.
we add.
All right, Andrew, you know this process, you've been through it before.
Isn't there?
Who's gonna start?
I will.
Jason Parsley.
So this is your 4th time running?
Yeah.
And you lost the staff vote, I believe.
Yeah.
Each time?
Yeah.
You've been here a long time, so why aren't you able to connect with the staff and win their votes?
I think, and it's gotten pointed out to me more recently again, that the way I come off when I'm trying to do things comes off as abrasive. And now that I'm a bit more conscious of it, having it explained to me, I'm going to try to be more conscious about it.
But isn't that a critique you've received every single time?
Yeah, I more understand it now.
Why?
Because it's just the way it was explained to me that because all I've done is I'm trying to make this place better. Like it's been everything I've tried to do in all of this. But it's been pointed out that it comes off as pompous sometimes or aggressive, and and if it's coming off like that, and my ideas aren't going to be taken seriously because of that, I mean, I'm going to try to tone that down as much as I can. It was more, I got that more different outlook on it because I don't want to come off as aggressive and like that because I just want to try to make this better.
But you are running as the change candidate.
Yeah.
But you don't appear to be able to change yourself. So how can you inspire the staff and give them confidence that you're going to be able to change this place if you can't change yourself?
Well, I mean, because I am now, over the past, I'd say this half of the semester, I've been trying to do that. I've been a lot more, I won't say
Do you think it's worked?
And my working and doing the things I'm doing, or the staff opinions of me with that? What do you mean more?
So do you feel yourself you changed?
Yeah, yeah.
But from the staff votes, it doesn't appear that they feel that. So there's a potential disconnect between what you're feeling and they're saying.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to try even harder, obviously. I mean, I haven't had much time to actually try to portray that more, but I have, changed more in the way of looking at that. I'm still going to be stubborn. I'm still going to fight for what I think and, argue, but, I'm not going to be aggressive about it. I'm not going to be, pompous about it or something.
One thing I got from the staff vote, it seems that people like you one-on-one, but when you're in a group setting, that's where you sort of fall apart.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, everything I'm trying to do, I'm just trying to make this place better. I guess it more comes off of, when I'm in a group together, is, I'll point out what I think is wrong, and, I'm blunt about
So you
it.
want to make it better. So what is the biggest problem, not that what you wrote in your selection?
Biggest problem in this place?
Yeah.
There's not much structure. We don't really have a training regimen. We don't really have
Content-wise?
Yeah.
What's the biggest problem?
Content-wise? I don't know. I mean, I thought content was actually really good. We've had a lot of interesting content. We've had the one-legged boxer. We've had the article that Wes wrote about the Spanish instructor that was discriminating against the handicapped student. We had Brittany's done 2 articles that were really cool about horror dorm stories. We've been more imaginative with this stuff, and we've had cooler stuff. So I mean, I don't think there's any general bad. Just problems have come about, little things that would had to work with the content because people weren't aware of how things were supposed to go, training on how to write better and stuff like that.
So you think the content's good, now everything else has to be fixed?
Yeah, and I mean, content, we can always have different kinds of content and stuff like that. That could be improved. But the content right now, no, I don't think it's necessarily that at all. But yeah, other stuff around it that will help bolster it has to be improved.
I have a question. So you're the opinions editor now, right?
Yeah.
And so do you have staff do people just submit opinions from just around campus, or do you actually have
I have stuff.
staff writers?
I want to do that though, and I'm working on figuring out better ways of going about that. I've been talking to Eileen about that and
Okay.
soliciting.
So you're looking
some
for
people.
other stuff.
I'm looking for stuff from students too.
So how many people do you have on your staff?
People that have been writing for me consistently. I have Miller, who I don't think is here.
No.
And then Tucker, who's was right there. Oh, okay. And Tucker. And I've had Raph writing stuff for me as well. And I have one person who's gonna be writing reviews for me, but she disappeared and hasn't responded to me again. But
Okay, so I just was wondering if you had to deal with the staff, because now you're gonna have to, if you become editor, then you'd have to deal with a bigger staff.
Yeah.
Do you think it's important that they vote for you? What do you think of the staff vote?
I mean, I see how EY comes off like that, and that's why I'm trying to more bring that down a tone so that my ideas are more taken as what they are and not as coming from me and therefore like just not looked at or paid attention to. Because
Well, what are your story ideas for this year, this semester?
so one I have idea is talking about how Algonquin is getting shut down. It's the cheapest one. The cheapest room
is?
Algonquin.
It's one of the dormitories. It's the cheapest dorm. It's getting shut down.
Pause. What? Why do you look weird?
Didn't we write a story about how that was
Yes.
true?
Yeah.
It wasn't true.
Yeah.
Correct. They
Yeah,
said it was just
maybe.
a rumor for now.
Yeah.
That's where I went up
talked
last.
to
Bottom line is,
Okay, there's
the editors
They
only
already
sort
wrote
of-
about it.
or you just knew about this stuff. Sonya's looking for ideas,
Yeah, I
No
was.
one else is
New,
that
fresh.
wasn't the only
so
thing.
give her some new ones.
Okay, well, there's that. The UVA is getting. All right, well, the basis of the thing is talking about how the housing is slowly, all the cheap housing is getting gone with, and they're building more expensive housing, and they're making it even more difficult for people to get out of housing and things like that. So housing is becoming like a bear trap to students, and it's
Okay, that's
pissing a lot
one.
of students off.
Okay.
The other thing I had was that there's a lot of stuff with the wildlife on campus, construction-wise. So
Stuff with the
That's,
wildlife
hold on, what are
construction
you
one.
talking about, stuff with wildlife construction last
We
time
did that.
talked?
Yes.
yes.
And stories have been done on it. I'm not saying that there can't be more stories that have been done, but I think
Alright.
we're
No,
looking
this
for
one
fresh.
specifically has more of a undertone.
Can you give Sonya any stories that have just not been touched by the UP yet that you would like to see?
Well, another idea was the underground tunnels are always intriguing and mysterious to students, and so I wanted to do a more historic piece
We've
about.
done that. You may not
Yeah,
have known it, but
we've done it a
is
very
there
long
something-
time ago.
there's something that you know as a story that no one else knows. For instance, when Jason was here and he found out that the student body president was embezzling money, right? Or like things like that, like something you know is going on, the UP hasn't touched the topic yet. Maybe something that spins off of some of the stuff you've done with science or opinions.
Well, there's one thing I've been fighting with whether to write about because there's most of the rooftops on campus are very accessible to students, and there's rooftops that have chairs and tables on top and a few places where people hang out, and it's a very interesting kind of sub thing that goes around that no one really knows about, or pays attention to.
Good idea. Give
That
her
sounds cool.
give her another one. That's good.
I mean, most of the ones that I really want to focus on were the housing in that one, and that one I was still fighting with. And I didn't want to say I was going to do more because I'm not going to put more on my plate that I don't think I can handle. And I only think 2 big stories like that would be what I can handle if I'm in charge.
Well, here's, okay.
Go. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering, like, so in part of your application, it looks like you're saying we can do anything. It says you can change, and then you talk about the creative juices thing and everything. So, what would you? So, tell me what your paper looks like then. If you can, since you can do anything, you're pitching that you can do anything. The stories you're talking about are pretty traditional news stories, though.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
like stuff
What
like
is the paper? So, does the paper look different? I mean, what?
The way I want to think about it is I want this to become a monthly magazine and have more online content, more focus on online content because we get more of our traffic from web. And like Ryan and I have always been talking about it, and Rich and Ryan have already been trying to work on it, making the web more nicer, more toned, and more and have more focus, and then have the magazine monthly so that we can still have.
Okay, so tell me, are you writing more stories? What are the stories about? Are you having different sections?
I'm thinking just more variation in content. Like I said already, I like the content we're doing. Like I think it's interesting and intriguing, and people like it, and like we've gotten people telling us that they like what we're writing. But I still want us to experiment with different things. Like I said last time, I wanted to do fiction to attract more attention. I wanted to do opinions to attract more attention, put more stuff, and I did, and it's worked. And I want to just see how far we can push it, how many things. I want to do an online section for the creative juices. I've already talked to Ryan and Rich about, and have even more stuff on there to grab even more attention because it'll be easier, everything going back and forth when it's on web.
I have a question. How many stories has the opinion section produced this semester?
10.
How do you think that compares? Grade yourself compared to the other sections here.
E plus.
Why?
I mean, obviously we could have more. I'm still figuring out the kinks on how to do the stories, what type of stories we want for it. I mean, we haven't had opinions here, not since anyone who's been on here now has been here for. So I'm still working out the kinks, looking at different newspapers, figuring out what we could do. Obviously, when that's more nailed down and what we're focusing on.
Mhm.
we'll
Well,
have
it sounds
more
like you
content.
still have more to do in opinion then, but
Yeah.
so why do you want to be the editor in chief? Because then you'll have to hand opinion off to somebody else unless
Yeah.
you're going to do it too.
I mean, I'm gonna be overlooking everything. I'm not expecting to be able to
That's not a good way of
micromanage.
putting it.
I'm not expecting to micromanage like the sections, but you know, like, it's brandy dandy new. Like I have ideas and things I want to go for it, but I already have one writer that I'm gonna be training and stuff to be able to go in my place where he has experience in editing.
Do you think an opinion piece needs to be journalistic? To have actual reporting?
It depends on what it is. There's like opinion piece on, say, like the library, like we're having one that's about to be done, and what the library, and saying that the library hours have to be open. Yes, that obviously needs more backing. Like that's not going to make sense just having someone just randomly talking about it. Like it has to have like, well, what is it going to help the students for? What is
Some
people thinking
opinions
about
need
it?
no facts, no reporting, no journalism.
Some opinions I think are more like the ones I would be soliciting from students when we get that working better would be a little less journalistic and be more about what they think. Like I did one about longboarders. I said, you know, just an open letter from a longboarder saying like, you know, pedestrians are the problem. I got a lot of attention. A lot of people were very upset about it, and I thought it was funny. But like, I didn't have that much journalistic stuff for it with that because the point was just kind of my opinion as a longboarder, and that would be my source. Is
What's
that
the
I am a
most-
longboarder.
What's the most journalistic opinion piece you've done this semester?
Cafeteria one. First one I did, I think, because I was talking about how the hours for the cafeteria suck. So I got different hours from different campuses and different schools in Florida and compared, and you know I thought it was worse before when I started looking.
Now,
I'm sorry,
I
I have
saw-
to interrupt really quickly about the cafeteria. You didn't have a single student quote in all of your information you Googled?
No, because
No, but yes.
So how's
You
that
did.
journalistic? I think it's.
Yeah, it was journalistic.
I don't know.
Carry our copy of it.
I don't
But
think I
was
need
this an opinion piece or was this a story?
an opinion piece.
And
Yeah, I mean like
yeah, but she asked what your most journalistic story was, and that wasn't it.
I think that was my most. I mean
And
I
there was
don't.
no reporting, so.
There was reporting. There was just no student quotes.
Speaking of faxes.
Recorded.
Interesting debate. That's kind of cool.
Well, I don't think that getting the quote is necessary for an opinion piece necessarily.
That's because that's come up with a couple times in a couple of my opinion pieces. Some of them I agree, some of them I don't. Because like if the piece is supposed to be from my perspective, I don't really want to get other student quotes.
So, well, what was the best story that the UP put out this semester?
I really like the one-legged boxer. I thought it was really cool.
Apparently, Brendan's story.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. It's really cool. It attracted a lot of attention. The cover and design was awesome, but content-wise, it was super interesting. Like this guy had a really
Okay,
cool
thank you
story.
for asking.
And what was the worst? What was the worst?
Worst story? I don't know. That was one story came off that is absolutely horrendous to me.
What's the biggest mistake that you can make? Can you tell us something about
Biggest mistake, like a singular mistake or a way of going about things.
something in the paper? People only care about what they see in the paper.
Thing that you went, ouch, I wish that wasn't in the paper.
Content-wise, I mean, nothing really like. Content-wise, nothing has really stood out to me as saying like this is
So
actually. very-
content-wise, you guys don't have a weakness?
Not that we don't have a weakness. I mean, like one singular article, no, I'm not gonna like. I don't see any one single article that's come out and go that is absolutely disgusting, which never got printed. But like in general, I mean, I still think we could have more of the like specific intriguing ones that I already mentioned, like Brittany stories about the horror stories, Dylan stories, or something like the long-legged boxer or something, stuff like that, or Emily's article, which was interesting, having the following up on something that happened a while ago.
So you said that the content's pretty solid this semester, and structure and process is something that you want to fix. How are you with deadlines?
With deadlines, for getting writing in and deadlines for edits and things like that, like it's fine.
Fine. And
The-
staff would say you're good with deadlines.
With those, yes. The other deadlines that I know that people have a problem with is me putting things on the project so everyone can see and know what's going on. And I'm aware that that's an issue. And I'm trying my best to fix that. I'm just an obnoxiously forgetful person and have to put like 5 alarms for me to remember things. So I know that that's the problem with that, and I know that's aggravated people, and I'm trying to fix that. I'm aware it's an issue.
That brings me to my question, because in this general management paper you handed out, under the newbie writers category, you say that you want to stress the importance of deadlines, and you want writers to explain their decks, heads, and stuff like that.
and you want them to know AP style. And in the staff vote, those are 3 problems that staffers are saying that you have. So just how do you explain wanting to stress that in your general management? The newbie writers need to know this if you aren't doing it yourself.
We did not.
That's what the staff vote said. That your heads and decks are missing, that you are missing deadlines, and that you don't have a grasp of AP styles.
Well, I was not aware of that.
You feel that's untrue?
AP style, yes. I mean,
So what's your biggest accomplishment this semester?
I did what I said I was going to do last time.
Which was?
I made the fiction section, and I made the opinion section, and I've been running both.
Are they self-sustaining? Do you think they'll be alive and well if you become editor?
Creative Juices, definitely. I already have someone who's going to fill that, and they're from Voices from the Fifth Floor, which is the English department's blog. So she already has experience editing. She already is an English major. Like, she's better than me for that position. And opinions, yeah. I mean, I have Miller who's going to be taking up that role, and he's completely up for it. He's had editing experience before too.
So why are you the best of the 3 candidates?
Who is?
Why are you?
Why am I? I've done nothing but try to experiment and try new things and do all this. I did what I said I was going to do last time. I've constantly trying to come up with new ideas, and I'm constantly critiquing things that we already do, because we can't just sit here and do the same things over and over. I mean, like, some people look at things like, it's not broke, don't fix it, but like, we need to constantly renovate and try to find things.
If it's not broke, don't fix it. But you just said the content's good, you're not going to fix it.
Yeah, I'm talking about new things, coming up with new things. Like, if something's working, like the content, like, yeah, of course. Like, I mean, I'm not going to change how we're going about news if the news is working fine. But it doesn't mean that we can't find a new way of trying it, a new way of going about it, new ideas for stories that we hadn't done before. It doesn't mean that we can't experiment with new things.
So what's the biggest, there must be some gap here at the UP in coverage.
In coverage?
Yes. You said the content's good, but it must be lacking somewhere. I've never seen the UP perfect.
I think it's lacking a lot of having a student voice. Like, most of the stuff that we come up with, like, it's all like, you know, what we think of as journalists is important. There's a lot of stuff that I know that students would find important that we don't necessarily cover, which is what I was trying to fix with the opinion section.
How's the coverage of the other campuses?
Not very good, I guess. I hadn't really put much thought into that.
How are you going to prevent what happened to the science section from happening to the opinion section if you become editor?
I need more.
The science section is gone, deflated. There's nothing
The
there.
person I had replace me quit. So the science section is kind of a bit stagnant.
I want to go back to the other campuses. Do you feel it's necessary to cover the other campuses? Do they count?
Yeah.
Do they matter?
Yeah, I mean, like, the students there too, and I'm sure most of them are pissed off that we barely ever cover their campuses. It's just, I know it's difficult because we don't know many people on those campuses, and that's something that we definitely have to fix. I mean, we could easily solicit information from people who want to do it, maybe like a house ad on the back, because the issues still get there. But if people see that there, I'm sure many people would jump out of their seats to be like, well, that means we can get
I
information.
think Jay's probably asked you that question because you're running as a change candidate.
Yeah.
It would be something you could change. I didn't mention it.
No,
That's
I
why
hadn't
he's-
thought about it.
I wonder why he's asking these questions.
Well, plus just to dig a little bit deeper into the coverage of what's happening at the UP. Because when you said the content's good, that's great, but there must be holes.
That would be a hole. I hadn't thought about that, but no, that's a good point, and that's definitely something to look into. That obviously, like, it wouldn't be too difficult.
That's okay. Ask what that's exciting.
Well, I'm curious. So you're kind of happy with content. Do you have all the beats you want? Are people covering beats?
We're not doing beats. I mean, like, we have people that usually cover the same types of things. Like, you know, we'll have writers that mostly write into features or under sections. Beats, not so much. I mean, I've never really been too fond of the idea of beats because the new people coming in here, like, we want everyone experiencing and learning all the different things so that everybody learns as much as they possibly can. I mean, if people's been here for a while, maybe we could put them on beats and, like, be like, well, you know, try to cover everything the police does, like, have that be your thing. But as a, like, whole newsroom thing, I'm not too
How's
fond
the
of
breaking news coverage?
breaking news coverage.
Right.
I mean, I think it's been good. I mean, we
So,
had,
okay, for example, your opponent says flooding happened on campus at 7 o'clock on Thursday, and the story doesn't get posted until 4 o'clock on Friday.
that could have been better, yeah. That was a problem with getting sources for things that was taking, like,
sources for things, you walk outside, it's flooding, right?
Yeah.
Am I missing something?
We're looking for more specifics on one example. I was making an example of the retention ponds. We didn't have an actual source that said that those were retention ponds.
That was your story, right?
Yes, that's the flooding one that we're talking about.
So you were supposed to be covering flooding.
Yep.
You were in on the flooding coverage.
Yeah.
But you all didn't have a story up until 4 o'clock the next day.
Why were you in charge of this coverage? Because you're opinions editor, so what?
I wasn't in charge of it. I was the editor of it. I was writing it.
But why were you writing it if you're the
I was there. I live at UVA, so I looked outside and saw the.
So you took the initiative to write a story
Yeah, I
outside the
started
section.
skating around, writing down as I was skating, seeing what places were flooded.
Okay.
So the 4 o'clock story that appears the next day is your story?
Mine and Nate's. We were by a double.
Okay.
That's neat.
Got it. And it took you till 4?
We finished it more or less by the night. That night.
And you guys can put, so I'm wondering, because it's breaking news.
9.
If I could probably.
No, you're not running, right? Okay, no. You're in the hot seat for this one. So, did you think we should put something up between now and then, or?
I think we could have gotten it out faster. Pat wanted us to get more of the sources. We were looking for the sources to find something specific to say that those were retention ponds, and a couple other things that we wanted. I would
Wasn't a building flooded? I mean, didn't I see pictures of like bushy library stuff?
Yeah.
And there wasn't a story on that, right?
That was originally what it started as, and then as I started writing around, I noticed that everything was flooding. So it turned into a bigger thing, not just library, but all the
So
other
as
stuff.
an editor, if you had been the editor that day, how would you have done it differently?
I would have had to shove it out that night. Like, if we have a couple sources missing for something, then we can just take that bit out and update it later. Have more of an explanation that, like, maybe why, more of a fact this happened, and then the next day, all right, this is why, this way it happened like this.
All right.
Okay.
I have one question. Since you're talking about doing a monthly magazine instead of a bi-weekly paper, have you looked at the numbers for that and seen what it would cost?
The numbers, no. I was gonna call yesterday, and then I didn't have time.
All right. Questions among the staff? Patrick?
Same one. What's your contingency for outgoing staff?
Contingency, like, how am I gonna replace it?
So, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of people.
Yes, replacing staff.
Well, for features, we have that covered. We have Tucker. For opinions, we have that covered. We have my Reggie Miller. Sports, Brendan's gonna be here.
We talked to Brendan about still covering sports. Should he lose?
I hadn't specifically talked to him.
Okay, so only tell us stuff that you know.
Okay, well, news, I know is gonna be a problem because we don't really have anyone specific. We have a couple people, but we think more.
So what are you gonna do?
More training. So for news, we're just gonna train more people over the summer.
Train more people. All right.
Have you talked with Patrick about news yet? No.
No.
Okay.
I mean, it is his section. So it might-
Anybody else? Raph?
See what he thinks.
Andrew, you said you were at UVA when it happened, right?
Yeah.
You were going around looking at things, taking notes. You have access to the UP Twitter? Like, can you log in?
No, I don't have access to
Okay,
that.
so that's okay. But you could have gone on your own Twitter and then
I don't
responding
have
at
a
a
Twitter.
video.
Oh, I don't even.
You're almost good. Hashtag.
All right. Any other questions from the staff?
I have a question. You've been talking about more fiction and opinion pieces and using the word magazine. How are you going to keep this paper from turning into a literary magazine, which is basically what the Voices from the Third Floor blog is?
I guess
So
how
we
are
already
you
have
gonna
one
preserve news in the paper?
Yeah,
Will it be a news
I
cover?
guess that would be a better way to phrase it.
All right.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, just because I want to have more of the other stuff doesn't mean anything else has to go away. Like, I mean, on the website we have almost infinite space. We have as much stuff in there as we want, as much content. Print. I mean, like I said, I want to make it monthly, so I want to have print be very nice, and it would have all sections in it. And obviously the articles that would be able to sit for a month, so it'd be interesting.
All right. Any other questions from staff? Max?
For your nice fancy monthly magazine, how do you get for it? Ads?
I already asked about what it would cost. He doesn't know.
Okay, ads.
Same money that we'd be using for those, because if we just print
Forget about the pay for it. Ads is the question.
ads, obviously I'd like to do ads, and as
Max
soon
is sort of asking you, what do you know about the advertising situation here, the
And
budget?
what do you want to do about it?
I mean, I'd like to work with Media Bank and actually figure out why we haven't been getting any ads from them.
Have you, to more directly answer Max's question, have you looked into the ad situation here at all?
I've tried. I've asked what is happening with the ads over the semester, and the answer I repeatedly get is that we need to give them more time to be able to get the advertisements.
That's the answer that's the real answer from the higher ups.
Any other questions? Can you go fetch Ryan, please?
Oh, who's your managing editor?
Right.
Oh, by the way, you got, all three candidates are here, will you ask questions for all three? All right, what do you guys think?
Let's get Ryan in here.
Is it his time, Wes? Is it his time, Wes?
I think this is the most prepared Andrew's been that I've seen.
In particular, there's still the question about the newsletter.
I realized at home didn't really like pizza. I just saw that the cheese pizza and my brother watched it and pizza. My brother. No, I'm saying that my brother likes cheese pizza, so I was wondering if I could take a box and I that's to like surprise you. Yes, brownie points.
All right. We're gonna get to Ryan. We're gonna go. We're gonna interview Ryan. Then we're gonna take a small break. Then we're gonna get all three candidates back together. Got some former editors ask some questions. You guys can ask questions. You can also tell us if you want to, who you want to vote for in this panel. Who wants to go first?
Is really the UP's most egregious flaw failure to make a recruiting plan?
Well, the way I look at it, trying to build something for the future. And one of the goals of the UP is supposed to be to train new writers. And if you don't have new writers in the first place to train, then what are we doing? And I feel like if we want to do things like we've talked about in the past over and over again about, expanding news coverage, doing this story, doing that story, that's fine and all, but if we don't have the manpower to do these types of stories and expand coverage, I think it's a futile effort.
So you don't think if you had a good product that people would come in?
I'd say right now we have a good product. I'm not saying we don't have a good product right now. I'm saying that we need to keep people in, keep people engaged. We have new writers come in all the time, and one of the complaints I've gotten from staffers is that they're not always getting assignments. They're not always, they come in for like a week or two, nobody engages them and gives them a story and goes, hey, try this out, sink or swim, and really tries to engage them. I'm not saying you have to suck up to them, but try to.
So how do you engage all of them?
I talk to a lot of new people who come in. Granted, not all the creative writing people. That's probably a knock on me, but I try to get to people who maybe aren't getting talked to. I try to be one of the first to the door and say, "Hey, how are you doing?"
So have you brought anybody in this room?
In terms of sports section, in the past I brought Junior on. Other than that, I wouldn't say so.
Well, what are the people though? You said you have been engaging a lot of new people.
Yeah.
Are they staying around once you engage them?
Yeah, but I feel like I'm not the only one. I've given Nate information. I helped him out.
I came back because Ryan engaged me into the actual meetings and whatnot.
But I don't feel like I'm the only one who has to be engaging them though. It's a team effort. It's not just like, I go and then do it. It's making sure I introduce them to editors. We had a writer come in during mock, and while everybody's out doing their own thing, I go get his information and give it to Brittany afterwards, and go, hey, a writer came, and make sure you email him. Make sure you keep in contact at least. See where he's at, see where his head's at, see if he wants to write. And I feel like that's important. Like I said on my sheet.
Don't repeat anything you already said on the sheet.
I'm not repeating, I'm making a point. Like I said on my sheet, as I repeat. I feel like it's the responsibility of the editor of each section to go out and get talent. They go, woe is me. I don't have any writers. And I feel like we posted on the UP Facebook editors group about a month before the semester started a list of classes. Oh, you should go into this class, this class. I think we got like 2 comments on it. And
Okay, so just let me boil this down. So have you gone outside of the room? You said that once people come in, you've engaged. So have you gone out and recruited anybody?
not as much as I wanted to, admittedly.
Well, yeah, so how much?
I've been to a few classes.
How many?
3.
Okay,
Well, I'd like to just want
oh, sure.
to, were you in those classes?
2 of them, yes.
See how it works? So you went to one class that you weren't in. Okay, you got an answer.
Okay, and so you would have more people follow your example,
You call that an example.
You did.
right?
Yeah.
So how effective were you in your 3 classes?
I'd say because it was only 3 classes, not very effective.
But Brendan went to 2 classes, so that's 5 classes. So it seems like the staff has gone to some classes.
Yes, they
so
have gone to some.
is
but
that you want to just go to more? And you think,
expand? Yeah,
you think
it's
that
kind
would
of
work?
law of averages. I mean, I was looking back at numbers for different recruiting things we've done, open houses, stuff like that. And you look at the list of names that come through. I went through a list of every name, looked at how many people have signed up and how many people stayed around. We had 115 people coming.
Do you ever take anyone with you on these recruiting missions? To these classes? Do you bring another
No.
UP or perhaps an advisor with you?
No.
Did you consider that?
I have considered that, but
Okay, well, one of the things you say you want to do when you recruit these people is give them an assignment immediately. So tell me 3 stories that you have in mind for the covers, preferably.
First one, I want to do a story about student Uber drivers on campus. Recently, Broward enacted a law that
Okay, Uber drivers on campus, I get it, that's cool. All right,
but
next,
no, that's a cool idea. I don't know the details.
There's an old adage in advertising, stop selling them, make a sale. You have it, go on. Number 2.
Taylor Victory Bell is number 2. There is a group of people who work with the school, Crash and Nina Taylor. They had a bell that they started in 2010 as a tradition with FAU athletics. They would bring that bell to every basketball and football home game to ring. Now, when the new athletic director, Pat Chung, was hired in 2014, he told them they weren't able to do that. They would only be able to do that off to the side. Now, 2016 rolls around, he tells them in a memo, which they have not gotten yet, that they can't do it at all. Gives them no reason, just tells them.
Okay, well, that's an interesting mystery. Next.
I want to do series of profiles on Muslim life at FAU, day in the life of a Muslim student. We have, you see the Jewish influence and the Christian influence. They all have multiple organizations.
Is there a Muslim organization on campus?
There is one, yeah.
No, there's a
That's not Muslim.
Yeah, yes.
There's actually only one Jewish organization. We have a Hillel, that's pretty much it.
Okay,
Give Sonia another idea.
Another idea, sexual assault members at
We've already
FAU.
done that story. It's a good story, we could do it again. Is there another idea that you have that no one's thought of before?
I feel like they're being underreported. I've compared numbers to comparable campuses in the state university system.
In Florida or?
Yeah.
We have that already. There's already an infographic.
We can't do more.
Yeah.
All right, but you got 3, I'm just pushing it, just pushing it. That's good.
you last semester I remember when you did the mock, you had written a lot, so I was very impressed. Have you written a lot this semester?
No.
Why?
I've been more involved in other parts of the university press. As much as I've written a tiny bit, like pales in comparison to what I did last year, I've been more involved with uploading of stories, the editing of stories, taking photos, multimedia elements, trying to get into leadership, doing things like that. So as much as you could say is, oh, he didn't write this year, it wasn't like I wasn't doing anything at all. It wasn't like I was just sitting there being idle. I was contributing in other ways.
So is the multimedia editor like the online editor, or is it different?
When I was first given the position, it was to kind of work with the web editor and expand the ways we can tell stories, and, as well as getting viewership up, and also assisting him in uploading. That's the way it was originally pitched. It was a little vague when it was given to me. It was kind of just blank slate. Do
What
what
have you
you
done
have
with
to.
it?
What?
He's not asking, what have you done with the position? Give her some success stories.
We have 7 stories with multimedia elements, with a few more coming on the way.
How does that compare?
We had none last night, 1 or 2 at most. Building it takes time. It's not just something you go, oh, 0 to 200 like that. It takes time to build things and change the culture of things around you.
So that is something that you had pointed out in the past was a flaw with the paper, was not an online presence. Now you're saying, you're doing a recruiting plan, which is really more about the building and not about the product. So what's the biggest flaw in the UP's product? Where do you guys, what do you need to change there if you were editor?
In terms of current product, I'd like to see more news on. So, I talked about it last year, I'll talk about it again. I feel like as much as sports gets its play, I feel like news deserves a little bit more play. And
What area of news?
I want to see more research coverage. We have a lot of research that, talking to Joe Pye, he would love to cover, that he
Talked about it, yeah, yesterday, yeah.
as well as before.
Same, yesterday, I remember from the cab,
But research is one of those things, a little bit more into campus crime, ST, things that people are looking at that I've noticed looking at metrics. People want to read, not just, oh, there's this thing going on, we have to cover it. Looking at quality over quantity. Because you don't necessarily need to be like, oh, 200 news pieces. What's important? And I feel like we fail to do that sometimes.
What was the best story of the semester?
Best story? I know looking at Twitter, Andrew and Brandon set the one-legged boxer. I like to venture out and say.
That's cheating.
Wow.
Hey, well, you know what?
I'm using the resources
I
given
like
to me.
it. Let him answer the question.
But
If they don't have the numbers, you say you didn't do the homework, and then if he has the numbers,
No,
you say you're cheating. Then
no,
it's
no,
not
he's looking at the live tweet. He's looking at what they answered.
I'm
At least
just
he
using
wasn't watching the live
resources given
stream.
to me.
That's okay.
But
Go ahead.
I'd like to
That's
venture out and say that oil spill was the best story. I'd like to say that we don't always do investigative reporting here, and that was a really great look into something more.
So why was it investigative in your mind?
It took 11 months gathering all this information and building kind of a whole profile.
Oh, the writer worked 11 months on that?
Emily,
Yeah.
worked 11 months on the story and built up a case with all the information she was given.
What was the case she was building?
That why is this party happening? Despite all this in front of her, despite all the rape allegation, everything.
That wasn't the case, but Carla's shaking her head too. But
Well, because I read that story and I'm still not sure what the nutcrack of that story is. There's a lot of back and forth about whether the fraternity was related to, really putting on the event. Were they not? There's a lot of back and forth about that. And I was like, well, what am I supposed to be getting here? And I'm not sure I've gotten it. So your take is, why are they having this event?
Yes, follow up, kind of exposing, despite all this evidence to the contrary that all these things happen, it's still going on, and it's pointing out something that shouldn't be happening.
Okay, the
moving on.
worst story of the semester?
Worst was one that didn't make it to print, the transgender.
You see that on the live tweet too?
Yes.
Okay, that's cool. Like, I think that's great. But give us another one. The
Give
second
them one
one.
that you think of.
There's only one bad story all semester? pretty
I
good.
honestly thought everything was pretty solid from content standpoint. I didn't see too much
Really?
weakness. There was things here and there.
Wes is shaking his head. What do you think Wes is shaking his head?
What do you think?
No.
Well, he's obviously shaking his head,
I'm
so he
just
must
point-
be the subject.
No, he just has an observation. I'm just saying someone else has an observation. I'm wondering if you do.
Okay, well, you're the multimedia editor, so let me ask you this. So somebody else has already pointed out that we have flooding on Thursday night and the story doesn't get anywhere until Friday at 4.
I don't think that's only my fault, that it comes up like that. I feel like there was a lack of structure in how we tried to
Well, what
break
would you do?
That was my case. I would make sure that we have an editor on standby for breaking news and have a list of people that we can
He's
contact.
asking what would you do in this particular case to make sure the story.
Well, this
doesn't
is interesting. Yeah, well, if he had a list, then possibly he would use it. Did you just think of this?
Yeah, it's something I plan to institute as EIC. Make sure we had a list of writers and editors who would be available in case of breaking news happens. So we can just go bam, 1, 2 through the editorial process, and then it gets out there.
Well, it sounds like though from talking to Andrew, and maybe you know or don't know, that he was on it. He knew it was raining. He knew there was flooding on that night. So, but it didn't get anywhere.
Can you give an explanation besides mistakes were made?
Like I said, I felt like the structure wasn't there and we didn't communicate. The lack of communication was the second part.
Did you
Okay,
ask?
so tonight it starts raining. You're the editor. All of a sudden, little desks are floating away in the library. What do you do? What's your plan right now? Tell me exactly what you would do.
Make sure I contact the Patrick News editor, tell them that this is going on, we're doing a story on this. Make sure I contact the writer, have somebody down pat to do the story.
Isn't that what happened before though? I think she's asking what are
So
you going
far,
to do different?
differently.
Because what you just described is what got the story to be published at 4 o'clock the next day. She's asking you what you're going to do to make sure that doesn't happen, and you're giving her the same system, the same structure that you said didn't work. Give her another one.
It's breaking news, man. It's happening right now.
Live tweet that.
Hey, here's a question. Do you have a Twitter account?
Yes,
Do you have access
Yes.
to the UP's Twitter account?
yes, I have access to both the sports one and the UP Twitter account, the main account. I'd be able to tweet something out, which I have done in the past with both the sports account and the UP account.
Did you tweet the flooding?
I did not.
Okay.
Your next question is going to be
Yes,
something
why?
to this question. So why don't you answer her question before she asks?
Why I did not tweet.
You don't know, or it's just embarrassing?
Not just embarrassing. I feel like I should have, obviously, because I'm looking here sitting with a red face. But we need to make sure we delegate to each editor if breaking news happens up their alley to prevent embarrassments like this in the future.
Okay.
We need to make sure that each editor who has access is aware of the things that are going on. Falls down to a communication thing or a lack of. If we make sure that each editor takes a responsibility in tweeting it out, as well as the main person kind of getting the conversation going, that's our first step.
Okay, so, and we're rewinding down to my original question. It's flooding right now, Ryan. What are you going to do?
Send out a tweet, random
And
spot,
then?
and then follow up with the tweets as the story is building. Make sure you build a case. Make sure that you have pictures, contact people, send out, hey, do you have pictures of your dorm room flooding? Send us them
Okay.
here.
And somebody's still gotta write the story, so what are you gonna do with that?
Make sure that we have the writer working during the night beforehand, not just, oh, make sure this is in by 12 o'clock tomorrow. Make sure that it's in now and have it working so that if it's not up as soon as it possibly can be,
Well, what do you think is good? I mean, like, it's flooding. You can't trudge into the library, so what's a good time frame for you?
I say if the story's not up by 8 a.m. the next day, you fail. Because as much as you put it up
When you
overnight,
failed, like an F?
you failed your readers.
Ron, can I,
as much-
just to
All right.
get cut to her answer, have you ever looked up online, pointers to other places, what they recommend for like best practices, how other people in the industry do it?
I have not.
Okay. You're the
But
multimedia.
from what
editor.
I've seen, I look at not that, but at what the metrics tell me. And what the metrics tell me is that nobody gives a damn about a story at midnight if they don't see it until 8 a.m. So,
So that's, so you don't do it at all until 8 a.m.
well, you release it beforehand, make sure that it gets that tweet exposure.
Okay.
So basically, you don't think people are coming to your site before it, so midnight would be
What the
pointless.
metrics are telling me is that in between a certain time is when we get the peak of our readers. Sure, you'll get a couple here, a couple there, but if we're in that metric zone and releasing the stories within there, that's when we get our readers. And as long as
Do you think that's how, wait, do you think that's how other organizations work, that like hurricanes hit in, they think, oh, it's 2 in the
granted,
morning,
they'll
we're not
make
gonna
sure
do
it's
anything?
out as soon as possible. But in this case, just making sure that you get the exposure after you release it is key.
Here's just one thought in the future. So if people thought it's flooding and if they considered the UP a credible source that they knew would run on breaking news, maybe even though they don't normally check
They would.
your website, it's just a thought.
Yeah.
But thinking, I mean, like,
I can see that.
That's what those other sources say.
Yeah.
Just gonna help you out there. All right, any other questions from the panel before we go to staff? We can always get back. You have a question?
I was just gonna make mention of the whole flooding incident. We've a whole lot of staffers that live in upper housing, but no one really talks about freshman housing. I'm a freshman and I know for certain during the flooding that it was flooding in both freshman housing dorms. Matter of fact, there were a lot of people that took multiple pictures, and I went out with a group of people and actually waved around. So the water was like.
Were you working here at the time?
So when you say waiting,
Yes.
you mean like waiting?
Did you guys know this?
I
Was
mean,
it-
student,
Well,
amendment,
the issue-
student affairs.
Plus, that's great. The issue is, did you talk to the editors about this? Did they talk to you?
No, I mentioned it the next day after
Okay.
I came.
All right. Questions, Patrick?
What are you gonna do to replace the outgoing staff?
In terms of features, Brittany is training up Tucker, and I feel like he's a good choice there, especially with the amount of time we have. In terms of news, it's waiting for somebody to step up and train that position. I feel like we have a few people that could potentially get into that position, but not yet. And
I think they're looking for specific answers. All three of you have said like, somebody, I'll do this thing, it'll be
Yes,
awesome.
yes. Joe Pye and Nate have both shown interest in this position. Granted, I want to make sure they're trained up before they take on that
have
position.
you talked to them about that?
Yes, I've talked to both of them. And I've told them we've had the position vacant in the past. And what we've done is made sure people like the Emmy, like Greg and others kind of keep on top of that despite the whole,
Okay, keep.
Who would be your Emmy?
would be my Emmy, Andrew.
We've
Yeah,
talked about it.
I've seen some critique in the staff votes that people that like you, they trust you, but they're very concerned about that choice of Andrew being your Emmy. So defend that choice.
I've considered all the choices placed in front of me in terms of people. I've considered multiple options, including both Carrie's and Brandon. In the case of Brandon, I saw him too much as same personality as me. And when I look at leadership, I don't necessarily need somebody who's the same personality as me going out there and kind of being the same way. I want somebody like Andrew. He could kind of be my enforcer, because we've talked about in the past, oh, Ryan's soft kind of in some particular for leadership. He won't be able to call people out. And I feel like I've built that, but Andrew will also help that because he has called people out.
Do you feel like a person that staff votes imply is bad at filling in the progress, communicating, and making deadlines is going to be the right person to enforce filling in the progress, communicating, and deadlines?
I mean, we talked about staff votes in the past. I won it last year and yet did not win. If
You have to
this,
answer a question.
Housing.
Thanks. This was a really good question. I'd say
to answer your question directly, seeing that there are problems with it, yes, there are concerns that, oh, Andrew won't be able to write, won't be able to do this. But the one thing that I've heard again and again from staff is they like his ideas. They like what he brings to the table. They see him as idealistic. And where he's not necessarily the one writing those ideas, if he's bringing them to other people, if he's telling them.
Do you have to be a managing editor to bring ideas to the newsroom?
You don't necessarily have to be a managing editor to bring ideas to the table, but big picture ideas.
You do. You have to be managing.
You don't have to be managing editor, but getting those ideas from just the brain to where they're being applied in the organization, that's where it works.
Wes, did you have a question? You kept waving me off. And
I'm coming back and forth. Why should we just not vote for Andrew then? He did pretty well today.
I mean, Andrew does have the experience, but I've been trusted with how much work I produce, what I've done to train people up, what I've done to bring new content. He said, using Twitter again, that he's the only one trying things new and imaginative. I've done things with these position.
Wes is asking if that's true.
Yeah.
He's the only one being imaginative?
No. He's not the only one, but I just answered the question.
Ryan, can you answer Wes by telling him what the most imaginative thing you've done in your term as social media?
I think adding stuff like maps and changing the way we do long form with the on the site, the way we present it.
But haven't we done that before? We didn't know.
Not very much, like a little bit.
What's your favorite long form piece that you did?
Hold on, let's go back in order. So Raph,
We'll
and
go back
Brittany,
to that.
and Max.
And Carrie.
I think it's back to Gary.
Andrew wants to make you his enemy if he wins. So why does it matter if you win? Because all that would happen is that your positions are in gray.
Fair question. I see that me taking over as leader, like the staff said, they trusted my work ethic, my ability to produce over time. I feel like they're behind my image and what I've said before.
I'm not sure that, hold on, I'm not sure that answered the question, but Brittany, you're waving me off now, Wes. You know?
No, I'll wait.
Okay, good. Brittany.
Ryan, for one of your news stories, you mentioned the Dana left of a Muslim person on FAU campus, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That's actually a story that I suggested a month ago, and I spoke over it with Joe Pye and Hope, who left. Just wanted to point that out.
Did you know that?
I wasn't told that. That's why I brought it to the table now.
Okay.
Maybe she could write. It was when I pitched my transgender story.
Interesting. All right. Max.
Do you feel that you and the UP were served best by you taking the multimedia, whatever position that never existed before, as someone who has no multimedia experience?
I honestly wanted to take on a challenge for myself, and I felt like that was the right choice, not because I didn't necessarily have any multimedia experience, but I wanted to learn. I wanted to try something that wasn't necessarily going to put me in a comfortable spot, which is what the EIC position does as well. I wanted to train myself up kind of to be prepared for leadership, and I feel like I did that in that position.
Carrie and Wes, if he doesn't change his mind before then.
What do you think of Andrew's ideas about making the UP more of like a creative and opinion-based and not having a news section?
I don't think that that's at all what he's proposing. I just want to throw that out there.
On his plan, it says that something about like not having a news section until there's 8 articles or like.
I think-
No.
I think he wants to put that online.
Bias against Andrew in this room, and it's very apparent. And one of them sits in those 3 chairs, and it's really sad to watch questions.
All right, this is fun. Carrie, just to restate, I think, tell me if this is accurate. I'm not taking any sides of this right now, but he wants to put news online. He does want to make the magazine more magazine-y.
Yes.
Is that-
So yeah, what do you think of that?
I don't think we should get rid of news in the newspaper. Obviously, he brought on the creative section and building content with that, but you get rid of news, you alienate part of your audience, which has been brought up in the past, that some people avoid news or don't know that we have the news, so they go primarily to the paper to get their information. So I feel like if you do that, you'll be able to be a part of your audience that wants to see that news.
Other Terry, did you have a question? No? Wes, are you sure now?
I'm good.
Good.
What if 6 months from now, let's say Andrew really needs to staff, and a lot of staff folks that work in his favor, what happens? What do you do?
If Andrew alienates the staff, you have to recover from that. And if I have to end up taking over after 6 months, if I don't win, if I do win, whatever, you have to make sure that you're on a level with your staff where if he alienates the staff and build up, you have to make sure that there are people who can take over, whether or not, because people will step up. You will find people that are capable within the ranks that if somebody screws up or alienates the staff like Andrew would, you can slot somebody up. So
That's not quite what I mean. I mean, like,
What do you do to?
Has
that not already happened? What do you do?
I'm asking, like, what if if the staff gets to a point where they're like, well, I
What
can't
did you do when that happened to you?
Well, it made a super issue, but then it fell apart at the end.
Alright,
Hold on, let's skip that for a second, Raph.
Yeah.
it's more or less the same thing. You mentioned that you want Andy to act sort of as your enforcer, because there have been concerns in the past that like, here's your guidance, or soft or whatever. So, do you think that you, in this position, would be able to overrule Andrew
yeah.
when he's out of line?
Yes, I've shown that I've been in the room more, that I've led more, I've led meetings, I've done things that Andrew hasn't done, where he isn't in the room and I am, and I'm able to answer questions. So I've built that respect to the staff and that respect with Andrew as well, because we talk a lot, obviously, because he's gonna be my lead if elected. And I built that level of respect where I've said, what I say, it's my way, and that's final.
All right, is there any questions that do not involve Andrew?
Yeah.
Patrick?
What dedicated online long form was your favorite that we did? Because I don't remember it.
I was talking in terms of bringing the stories back on, and you are correct. We haven't really dedicated any.
But he's asking you what give us you're trying to talk to these people up here about examples. He's saying he can't think of an example. Give us an example. Basically a long ass narrative story.
But that's what I'm trying to bring to light. I'm talking about.
So you haven't done it yet?
Yeah.
Okay, but
But you said that was one of the things you were proud of. You said maps and long form, right? That happened.
Putting on in different ways, not just throwing it back up there, like we did with the spell story, putting graphs and things like that in there to present it in a different way. To answer your question, no, I don't think we've done the requisite amount of long form. I attempted with the story form platform to do that with
so basically you're talking about layout. Layout of existing
Yes.
stories, not actually assigning or writing
Yes.
long form stories. Okay, Wes.
Have you considered like a social media policy? We don't have one, and it's hindered us just a little bit.
Yeah, like I said before to the panel, I'd like to see some type of list, not just with the story, but having people who are available to tweet stuff out. If they see something, say something.
Have you seen have you looked up other social media policies for Pro College and publications?
I have not.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
I have two things really quick. One, what are you most proud of doing this semester? What
I'd say
product?
getting the
Product.
viewership up.
Product. Byline or a story that you worked on with someone else.
What'd you think about that? Brittany, what's your question?
Yeah, since we're going to have budget cuts later on in the year, how do you propose to change the UP to reflect those?
I would move if the budget cuts were substantial enough to change the print product from bi-weekly to monthly, and then make sure that we didn't just lose content. We made sure we doubled down on web. And
how much money would that save?
I don't know.
How much is the budget cut gonna be, dollar wise?
Well, it's not in place yet. It's
You're asking me or telling me? You sure?
Not 100%.
Okay, so you didn't look this up. Okay, well, that's okay. None of the other candidates apparently did either, even though they're running for the job. Max,
What is your plan for selling ads, not selling ads?
Looking at the Media Mates contract we currently have, that hasn't exactly yet worked out.
have you looked at that contract?
I know we were,
Yes or no?
no,
Okay, thank you. Can you go back to Emily's question? What are you most proud of?
Really shooting your own horn there, man.
Yeah, you guys are really good at
I
self-promotion.
want to bring it to not me, but to toot the horn. We had 280,000 views, over 2,000 last year through the same period.
I'm sorry, what's that? So you're saying you got more views. So give me the numbers in a clear fashion for these guys to understand. From before you took over till now. Give me a metric that shows
Before I
you.
took over, there was 200,000 views in that same monthly period from the first month that the respective person was in until the current date. When I took over, it went up to 280,000, more consistent in terms of hit weekly. In the last semester, there was that one huge Tracy story that drove a lot of views, and then that was kind of it. It kind of flatlined. The amount of the views over content has become more evenly.
But that could be because we have stories that were just more popular. Can you give them a metric that shows the work you did? Like, that's,
Like a story with a map that you did had this many,
give us an example of something, you put your hands on it and it was gold.
Like UBAC with Greg, we had talked about, he had the print there, and I wanted to add some graphs, so we had talked about this in the past, adding charts and stuff to make it.
And you created the charts?
He did. I don't
Okay,
have to
then
be the
what'd you
one. I told him as leader to
Do
make
that.
the chart. Yeah.
And he did it because you wanted it done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Format, are you still trying to be bi-weekly?
Yes.
So that's
Money
it.
allowing that stays.
All right, so are there any other questions? All right, here's what we're gonna do. If you can get the other two candidates, we're gonna take a 5-minute break, which usually means 10 minutes, but let's try to keep it to 5. We're gonna have all 3 candidates here. We're gonna ask them the last set of questions. We're gonna have the other editor and us. We're gonna vote. And you guys get to speak up. But, and then I would love your opinion on how this is going. That's it.
Me too, and the traffic's bitter after this.
I'm gonna try to take 1241.
This is what I do now. I do that between my one of their police cars. I mean, I will for next semester, but this semester. It is an issue. Like, people not, because the school doesn't do it. And athletics does it too, and all of them, they keep saying, well, in people's pictures. I don't know all about you come out.
And I want to use this photo, so I happened to search it to see if it was anywhere, and I was like, that's the cute.
No, they told me.
And I was less upset about getting this car one, when I saw they were using a flag picture, I was like.
I can publicize that. I can get an attorney involved. I'll be happy to be in this.
Yeah, you can go with it. All right.
fall.
I do want to say for the record, especially with Pat saying next year,
I know that girl,
especially when
girl that was a rumor
nothing was in the story. The story kind of smacked on it. So, no photos except for the subway.
So, how you feeling?
Bill, I just texted you. You never got one.
No way, it's never gonna be. Yeah, exactly. That's what I figured. So I'm like, no, that's no awesome. How's that chair?
It honestly wasn't bad. I wish I was a little more like prepared. I wish they asked me the questions that I wanted them to.
Here's what I did, but it's not.
But it's not
Here's
good.
what I did.
Here's what I did, and I won. Thanks, I won. Don't prepare, just react to what they say. Think on your feet. That's the best way out.
That was my problem. I wanted all my thinking was instead of me. I didn't think of that before right here, so I no. But in this terms, it was different because I didn't know a lot of the numbers behind what we do, like how much it is. That's what's
Okay, also, I'm gonna give you one. Your butt is gonna be gutted in half. Oh, actually, next week. I will work on your car with you. If we take the minivan on Saturday night to the Keys, go ship them over there. Sounds like a good deal. We can sleep in that. I'm trying to put in Keys.
Well, I was gonna say it's fun for us looking at y'all suffering here.
I don't like everybody. I'm not being like
it pains us sometimes. Sometimes it pains us to go to Canada. But then after that, it's just all fun for us. It's be like, oh,
Yeah, because
We'll start in a minute.
How
Oh, okay, so let's
All right. So when we start, you dogs go home.
Friday, hopefully we go ladder.
Andrew. All right, well, that's what it is. All right, you guys can all sit on the couch together if you want. All the candidates, 3 guys in ties on the couch.
Sounds like a bad band.
3 guys in ties, that's a terrible band name. All right, so here's what we're gonna do, because we usually do this, we have former editors that show up. So we have Carla Boucher, who was former award-winning editor, right? You won a first place national SPJ award, I remember. And Dory, actually, we're talking about multimedia. She was, I think, the first multimedia editor we had. First dedicated multimedia editor.
It's hard to remember because there were a lot of them. There were quite a bit, there were a number, yeah.
So here's what we're gonna do first. I'm gonna ask them to ask you guys questions now. They're smart enough to know this, but I'm gonna tell everyone else. They don't have to ask all of you a question. This is not supposed to be fair. They can ask one of you a question and not the other 2. They can ask all 3. They can ask just one of you. They can interrupt you, as we've been so pleasantly doing all day long. So you guys, take it away. Do some stuff.
Okay, so I don't know you guys, but I read all the worst things that you wrote and the staff votes. And I kind of like had a sense before, but now I just have no idea. Brennan, your answer basically could be summed up as marketing. And Ryan, yours could be summed up as like staffing. Andrew, what I'll get to you is you at least have bigger ideas. It kind of seems like you're a little all over the place and maybe follow through is lacking. Brendan, from what everyone says about you, and even you've had compliments from now all of your competitors, if you're not the next editor, you will be an editor, and I'm sure you'll be a very good one. If you don't win this time, it's for the better for you because you'll be a better editor when you get there. But what all the compliments are like how kick-ass you run your section. But when I log on, all the stories in the carousel thing on the website, like half of them are yours. That's kind of, you got to start thinking about how you show people you can do more than a bunch of short sports stories, and manage outside of that. So think about that. Brian, you kind of seem to win the staff vote by process of elimination. I don't know. I don't know what to say. If I don't know any of this. I'm just I'm glad I'm not up there. And just think, if you're the editor, and the same, Andrew, for you, you need to. I know you've talked to people somewhat about who goes to what position, but really think that through. That you've not committed to anything, and it's probably going to be a rough semester with all people graduating. So just think about who's behind you. I have no vote.
All right. So actually, I was going to ask you to give a statement anyway. You didn't have any questions. Cool.
You just wanted my vote, and I just.
Well, no, because I do want to know. You want to influence these guys. I'm going to ask the staff this question too. Dory, do you have questions, or you want to actually tell us what you think of the candidates?
I
Either
have
way.
questions and statements.
Good, let's do it.
Can I provide both?
You can.
Okay. I was really disappointed through some of the staff votes about how much they hate some of these people. And I wrote pretty mean staff votes when I was here. Some of them are more memorable than others. And so just reading the disappointment was just kind of upsetting because it doesn't sound like you really care about who wins, except you like someone better, so you're voting for them. You don't really think about the work that they did, so that was kind of upsetting. Along those lines, I think the staff is just severely uninformed about who came before them. That's probably management, it's probably editors, it's probably a bunch of different things. So much to the fact that nobody knew that there was a multimedia editor before Ryan. 10 years ago, I was one of the first people to work on the website for the University Press, and I don't think anybody here knows who I am, which is fine. I'm really nobody. I am the president of SBJ Florida, but what is that to you guys? You have a code of ethics up here, but do you even know what it means or who runs it? So I hope whoever wins really takes into consideration the people that come before them. There's some articles up here kind of from when other staff was here. I don't know where those papers live. I don't know if you guys have ever researched the stories that other staff has written, because I hear some ideas and they've been done before. So if you want to do them, how about you see how they were done before? Because you named a lot of things. I work on the internet and I haven't heard a single thing about what you guys want to do for your website, and you're the future, and I'm gonna have to hire you soon. One staff vote said, what is a journalism major doing in a tech position? And honestly, that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I hope I don't meet you, whoever you are, because that is me. So I hope that you are mostly Ryan who are embracing these changes, because if all you want to do is write on a piece of paper, you're not going to get anywhere. If you want to take a photo, you're not going to get anywhere. You really need to think about the broader scope of where journalism is. And if you don't know what that is, talk to somebody. I'm here, Carlos here, Katsy's here, Jason's here. Like, there are other people here than just your editor, and please learn that. For the candidates, because I work on the internet and I didn't hear anything about the web, I'd like to know your plans for the web, and anybody can start. Ryan, I'd like you to start since you are on the web.
As brought up by question before, I'd like to bring more dedicated long form to the web and build from there. Start with bi-weekly long form, try and get that going.
Okay. And, do you have any ideas of writers in mind who would be good at, I mean, someone here said they didn't know what long form was, so I don't know if you have a plan on explaining what that is to other people when they come in.
Yeah, one of the things to make sure is that in regards to training, make sure.
Right, you're really talking to everybody, so.
Yeah, make sure.
I appreciate it.
No, I was just answering the question. You're right.
No, I understand.
But I make sure that training, more people are trained these web elements that I've been trying to get started, that are trained to not just see that the terms and everything, but make sure they're getting this knowledge, make sure they know about social media.
Ryan, can I just suggest that, like, you give her something, it doesn't have to be the big thing, just give her one concrete thing.
It was a very broad question. So
it was a broad question, but even though it's a broad question, you're better off answering it really, picking one thing and saying, for example, this thing, I'll kick ass on that. Because it'll give us faith in all the other things that you didn't mention.
Yeah. For example, I started with maps this year, getting that more so in there, and it's something I continue to do. One of the things I'm planning to do is somebody get that.
Good leadership.
One thing I'm planning to do is a Florida Music Festival map using JS Story map.
Okay.
And I had Joe in mind, wherever the heck he is, because he's big into the music festival. So I wanted to give people something they could click through.
Okay, that's
good.
That's a good one. Andrew, do you have one?
Yeah, like I said, I want to put more of a concentration on web, and with that, and Ryan and Rich are already working on this, which I'm paying attention to.
Give her one thing you want to do that you can do concretely.
Like I said, my biggest issue is with managing stuff. So a lot of the times, web, we can't do really interesting things because people who are working with it are so bogged down with day-to-day stuff. So the idea is to have the head web person, the assistant.
What is day-to-day stuff?
Like uploading daily stories. like it takes time for everyone to get photos together, put it together, make it.
And you have a multimedia editor, right? And you
Yes.
have another online editor, I think?
A web editor.
You have so you have two people that handle that.
Yes. And I want to just more specify what they would do to keep it organized.
All right, more specify what they do to keep them organized. Brendan?
I don't like the display of our homepage. I hate the slideshow. I just don't think people take the time to actually click through each story to see each of the stories. So I just think the whole display, especially the homepage, just needs to be redone.
Have you talked to Richard about it?
No.
Have you talked to Ryan about it?
I briefly, I
Do you know
do
that
not
they're
nothing
already
formal.
working on it?
Excuse me?
Do you know that they're already working on that?
I did know kind of.
Ryan and Richard.
All right, so basically, that's fine. From the staff, if there aren't any questions, do you guys want to make a statement for these guys to consider? Yes?
Oh, I have a question. I thought something else.
Sure.
For example, and I kind of mentioned this when I came to my first meeting last week. I kind of picked English secondary to something else when I realized I couldn't do that as a major at the college level, and I tried to join the Gardens campus of Palm Beach State has their own paper known as the Beachcomber. I tried to join, and when I was looking at the application, I felt like I had an answer for all of the sections, but I didn't really have an answer to the question directly. How are you guys going to keep this paper from becoming like purely journalistic? I didn't know.
So you don't want it to be purely journalistic?
Well, like I knew, for
That's
example,
fine.
like I knew I wanted to be a writer, but I didn't.
What's your
didn't
question
know
to
I
them?
wanted to go into
Based on your
journalism.
experience, what's your
How are you guys
question?
going to keep the paper like comfortable for everyone to work on? Doesn't matter like what your major is, for example. So none of that asking questions.
No,
Sorry.
that's fine. Bringing people in, you're going to get a lot of new people from different backgrounds. That's evident. But making sure that they feel comfortable that they have their own section. For example, Andrew built the creative juices section for people who want creative writing. I feel as if his opinion, he should make sure that he has more opinion writers and bring people in maybe to help train in that regard. But I wouldn't want it to be so divisive as somebody could feel like, oh, they could jump from one section and maybe get some experience in another section. Because in my own experience, that's what I've done. I've jumped from like, oh, sports, oh, I'm taking photos now, oh, I'm putting stuff on the web, things like that. I want to make sure that everybody knows that they don't have to pigeonhole themselves, that in the professional world, they're looking for versatility out there, and everybody's bringing something to the table. We want to give them more tools.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have most of the people in here aren't. There's a lot of people in here that aren't journalism majors. I'm a physics major. So like we do have a diversity of different majors, but most of the people in here want to write or do some kind of thing with writing. And part of what I've done with the Creative Juices Opinions is more broaden up so we have a more broader set of people like writers who want to write different things and sort of broaden up the readership. So I mean, I think that the Creative Juices Opinions would be a good place for someone who doesn't necessarily want to do something journalistic, but who would like to write and something like that.
All right, Brendan?
Yeah, I feel like if someone doesn't want to write new style writing, they have the opinions or the creative juices. But the overall, in my opinion, the overall point of the EP is it's writing. So if someone wants to write but doesn't necessarily want to write that kind of style, maybe we could find a place for them or find something that they can relate it to. But like an opinions or creative juices, but
All right, answered. Are there any statements you guys want to make to this group? Jerry?
Okay. I know that you mentioned that it seems like the negative votes toward Andrew are because people don't like him. Full disclosure, I had one of the harshest reviews for Andrew, and I genuinely like him as a person. Like, we bonded this past semester, and he's really cool to hang out with. But I'm really tired of the lack of communication, the consistently broken deadlines, and the constant.
Can I just
Hold on,
specify?
You want to let her talk and then you'll answer.
The constant disrespect for the staffers' time and effort. Because I can't tell you how much more work you've given us because you just don't communicate. And I don't see why you would make a good EIC or ME if you can't communicate. You can't manage people.
All right, Andrew?
With the deadlines, I just want to specify that I haven't broken draft deadlines or anything like that. The type of things that like Emily has brought up is putting stuff on the progress so everyone knows, which is yes still a problem, but I want to specify that because those are really two big differences.
What happened with your last story?
Last story got
issue.
pushed for more reasons than just me not doing it on time.
No, I would agree with you there, but.
So basically, for these guys, so they have some clarity, has he broken deadline or not? What's going on?
You just broke it on one order. We have big guidelines, we have heads, decks, paper, tags, Facebook, Twitter, and you didn't have any of that
On the day of
on the
proof.
story. Yeah, on the day of proof.
That true, Andrew?
Yeah, that
Okay.
one was.
All right, but so is that, are those most of the examples, or is that just one example?
That's,
Is that how it usually goes, or is that just
Yeah.
one time?
no.
Okay, is that true, Andrew?
I mean, I don't know.
She's
one
saying
more
that you
one,
don't
yes.
do, you might turn in the story, but all the other stuff that has to be with the story, you continually break deadline all that other stuff. Is that what you were meaning before?
When you respond to comments or edits, you either mark them as resolved, you ignore them, or you just turn the story and say it's not. Despite us saying there are major content flaws, like which Carrie and I and Emily have brought up so many times. You just don't address them.
You're talking about copy edit stuff. I mean,
No, not copy editor stuff. Content flaws.
content flaws, like normal edits.
Yeah. Don't
Basically,
content.
do you ignore requests from the editors to edit your story? Yes or no?
No, I mean like.
He says no, you say yes?
Not everything on the doc.
Yes, absolutely.
The editors say yes? By the way, I'm glad you prefaced this with you guys personally getting along, because, by the way, none of this is personal. This is all about work, right? So we're just trying to get to the bottom of work. What's the verdict on this, so these guys know?
Oh, it's true, and I don't want to speak for designers because I'm not a designer, but there have been multiple issues where we've had to go into the closet, the ed office, and talk about inconsistencies with communication.
Well, that's different than edit stuff. That's more having a conflict
That's,
of.
how can a story be designed if you're not telling them anything about the story? It's happened multiple times.
All right. Is there anyone else who wants to comment? Max?
Brandon, have you considered, or have either of you guys considered, when someone wins, the other two that aren't him, some type of marketing position? Because you seem that that's kind of what you really are looking at, it's talking about, and as you guys see, I don't feel that someone you're able to just focus on that. You see there's a lot of good ideas in that.
For a specific position of
Or like you doing that.
marketing, I didn't think of a specific position, but I definitely think that it needs to happen. And I mean, whether I'm whether I'm sports editor next semester. Now, I mean, I should have made it known this semester, but I didn't. And next semester, whether where I am, I'll be happy to just go out to all other businesses.
With marketing, I think we can, like, we tried having a marketing person before and that kind of went down the drain. But we, I think marketing is important, but I think we can do that without having to have a single position to do it. Having writers going to editors going to classes, finding people, like, I'm talking to people in my science classes, physics classes, trying to find something for a science section. Or, like, you know, having the house ads around, because we don't have to put up flyers and things like that, because we kind of have issues all over the place.
Okay.
There's something on the back, it's going to pop up all over the place.
As Andrew said, I don't think we necessarily need a specific dedicated marketing person. What I'd like to see more is, you know, usually in terms of trying to market our own name, we just table. And we could potentially throw events or other things that get people talking, get people interested. I mean, in the past, we've done the free food festival. That's something that we could potentially bring back or do other things to market ourselves as kind of different.
Okay. Char, do you have any opinions?
Oh, yeah.
Would you like to?
I mean, so question one, what is your major improvement? Day one.
My major improvement?
All three of you. Day one, major improvement. What's the first thing you change?
Oh, you don't mean like from day one of us getting here. You mean like
Day
If
one.
they Take over,
Yeah.
right?
It's EIC.
Okay.
What do they do?
What's the first thing you change?
What's
Yes.
the first
Wait,
thing?
that's a very long question.
Webpage.
Webpage?
Make sure that's all set up.
Good, one answer done.
Training.
Training, good, one answer done.
Critiques.
Critiques.
Okay, just a follow-up question. You can, why didn't you start any of those? Those are all within your
I
control.
have.
Okay. That's a pretty good response there. I like
And
that.
that can flip on the fridge.
Char, you're an alum. you have any statement for these guys? Who do you think did the best, the worst?
I think you all did about equally.
That's my answer. I hear you. Anything from the staff? Richard?
But the internal processes, I think are garbage. A lot of them are antiquated and they probably didn't work back then either. What can be improved? There's a progress sheet. There's a lot of word of mouth stuff to do with how people should do things, what people should do, and reinforcing ideas through word of mouth. What can change internally?
Well, I mean, most of the stuff that I want to change, most specifics, is that thing that I passed out and I know got passed around.
Did you see his plan? Can someone pass that to Richard, please? Is there any brief answer you can get? Again, you don't have to answer a big, broad question like this with a 30-minute treatise. You can give, like, Richard, one example. It might be the smallest of examples, but it shows your thinking and it might give him confidence. Do you have any particular examples to answer his question?
I want to change the way the meetings work so that general meetings, to be more specific on just that, general meetings would be mostly brainstorming with new writers and workshops, rather than just kind of talking about random stuff and critique. And obviously critique's important, but more focused on the workshops and brainstorming.
All right, Andrew, that's good. Ryan?
If I can interrupt that, I haven't been able to make the meetings here from 2 to 3 because I have Spanish class. Other people, new people or people that are existing may have classes that overlap, those types of things, and they'll be missing out on that. So how does that work?
I mean, we can work around that. Obviously, if there's a writer that really wants to learn stuff, like even more than just workshops, we'd be working with them anyway. But as like a general, get people to have a general idea of what the hell's going on, it would be something like that. And then, like, I already have like the thing with that, with most specifics about how to talk to, when to talk to, when. Because I know a lot of your troubles are with web stuff not being concrete. So, like, most specific things, like 24 hours before to know when a story is going up, things like that, which Ryan's already highlighted before too.
All right, that's the answer.
I'd say, I've said in the past that during the test progress sheet, I'd make sure that we had everybody fill out the information, make sure there's even more guidelines, and make sure that the information's there. And then 2, make sure we had section meetings after
So
our.
the first one we already do, we already try to do, every editor tries to, but your idea is section editor
Yes,
meetings.
which I've heard people break off in the past for training.
That's
that
true.
was sweet.
Okay.
And I'd like to not just do training with those, but make sure that everybody's on the same page after the ed meeting, and then.
That's an answer, that's good. Brandon?
Also, the meetings as well. I don't want to do the critiques as the first thing as a meeting. I think that just kind of takes everyone's kind of emotion, maybe not emotionally, but just kind of out of it, especially someone new that comes here. And the first thing they see is just people critiquing other people's work. Not saying there isn't a spot for it, but I just don't think it's necessarily the first thing we should be doing. And
Just don't go first, okay? Mo?
Based on past ESC elections or whatever, how do we know that you'll be accountable to the words that you guys say here today?
I've already done the
If
things.
whoever wins.
I've already done the things I said I was going to do last time.
I have a proven track record of every section I've been a part of, helped build. I feel like I can continue that.
Brendan?
Yeah, I mean, this was my first semester as like a higher editor, so I didn't really have any like as much background of being able to prove it. But I mean, maybe I just have to do it. I've shown that I'm willing to put in the work, and like I said, I've been doing about 5 articles per week, so I'm willing to put in the work. So that's,
All right. Does anyone here want to tell the panel anything directly about your thoughts, your hopes, your fears, your dreams? All right, then let's do this. I'm going to say one thing. I usually go last, but I'm going to say one thing first before these guys articulate what they think aloud of you guys. I have, in 16 years, rarely seen an editor selection with candidates, whether mock or real, so woefully unprepared for an editor selection. Usually, the candidates know something. They've done some research. They know what our budget is, even without being budget cuts. They have talked to past editors or even people that ran and lost. Did any of you talk to anybody that's ever been through one of these selections before? Just,
yeah.
Who'd you talk to?
This time, no, I had not.
Okay, well, that was my question. So,
Did anybody even talk to you?
Nope.
so like, And I'm not.
Brendan, you didn't talk to no one. Had you ever been to one of these?
I was at the one last semester, but I did not talk to anyone. I mean, I talked to Ryan, not basically like interviewing
But you
him,
guys-
but I talked to him.
You guys didn't do any research. And I'm not even talking about going out of your way to do research. I'm talking about what's called lazy research, right? Because you could sit at a computer here and Google what's been in the UP before 5, 10 years ago and say, I'm going to steal that idea because I don't think Kretzky's smart enough to remember that shit from 10 years ago, right? Yeah, I'm old and decrepit. I'm soft. So, but you didn't do any of that. So you sat up here, and then in addition to that, you doubled down by most of you guys just not your best answers to like what I've done was a story, but the photos were better than my story. And a lot of your answers weren't even like, hey, I want to do more long form. I haven't done any, but other people did. I added charts to other people's stuff. I've been around you guys. You guys have done more success stories than that. And you didn't share that with these guys. So the sad part is all three of you, I think, are going to probably make this really difficult for these guys because you didn't give them a lot to work with. And the other thing is, look around you. I mean, this is the rest of the staff. They didn't really ask a lot of questions. I don't think there was a lot of engagement, probably because you didn't give them a lot to engage with. But I'll do my vote later. But that's my theme that's going on here. So how do you guys want to proceed?
Okay. I do want to throw out there that it was under my leadership that we launched the daily website. And not only that, but we worked on a weekly basis with Owl Radio and Owl TV. We produced collaborative stories with those other outlets. I didn't hear anything about the other outlets.
It was awesome.
What?
Jason, it was daily.
He did do all that.
It was daily.
So yeah, I don't like to toot my own horn, but and the other thing before I get to you three, this idea of engagement, we want to engage new people, and I love it. It sounds like this kumbaya thing, but no one engaged me when I walked in the store. Everyone ignored me, but I wanted to be a journalist, so I kept coming back every single week until someone took notice. And finally, after 3 meetings, Kretzky said, "You've been here 3 times. What do you want to do?" And they said, "Does this guy have a story to work on?" And I remember my editor at the time, Jared, who struggled so hard to give me a story. He literally put his hands like this and like screamed in the newsroom because it was that difficult to come up with a story. So these issues have been going on for 10, 15 years, these same issues. But when he came to my class, that's how I was recruited. He came to my class, and I still remember it was like yesterday, everything that he said. He said 2 people from this class will show up at the UP and 1 will stay. I was the one that stayed. And he also said that if you want to get a job in journalism, you have to do something besides your classwork. So you're not going to get a job. And that's why I came, because he scared me. So I'm like, if I just go to class, I'm not getting a job. And I wanted to be a journalist. So I came and I stayed. And the rest is history. But, I am torn actually this time. Brendan, you're very new. I think, I hope that you do stay. You've been writing a lot, which is really, really good. This idea that you want to go monthly, that just gives everyone less opportunities to write. And while everyone every semester says, oh, we have the web, so it's infinite. But I don't see people, producing more work because the web is so infinite. And, that was one of my critiques every time I ran for editor was write more, write more, write more. And so I stepped up and took more management positions, Ryan, but I wrote more too. I wrote a lot more. I was co-editor of this paper, and I ran 30 or 40% of the covers, and we were weekly that I did in one semester because that's what I had to do to make sure that when I went before the next selection, I had done what they told me that I needed to do. And I stepped up and I did it. And you know what? Even though I did it, I still lost the second time again because of her. Yeah. And I do want to say I'm disappointed in Sonia. She's become very soft over the years. Because when I ran, she was tough. She was tough. So Brendan, I can't vote for you today, but I do hope that you stay around, and I do hope that you continue because you're clearly a content machine, and so that's amazing, writing as much as you do. I hope that you branch out into other forms of writing. Do all 3 of you want to be writers when you leave? Yeah? Well then, write. I can't stress that enough. Write. And branch out beyond your sections. You know, I was very impressed, Andrew, that you actually did take that breaking story, news story. It was outside your section. So kudos to you for that. I'm a little concerned, I think, with the fact that, yes, kudos to that you started the opinion section, the creative juices and all this stuff. But again, it seems like your personality has not changed much over the past 4 semesters. And I think you need to work on that to command the respect of the staff. You can enforce deadlines, you can enforce things, and people can respect you for that, or they can think you're an asshole. You know, when I did those things, they respected me for it. They didn't think I was an asshole. And we did, there was an editor, Dylan, who was a tough guy, and he was an asshole. And the place was a disaster. So you have to, temper your personality, and, maybe different people need to be managed differently, and maybe you can be that way with certain people, but you have to really look at the staff and say, how can I manage each person, the best that they can be, Ryan, I think that you're still growing into this position, and I really hope that you continue to grow. And I hope that, I'm not sure if you're ready. I think one of you, Brendan, said that none of you are ready. And I agree with that statement, that really none of you are really ready, but obviously this is what we have to choose from. So one of you are gonna get the position. And, I really wanna vote for Andrew because it's your 4th time and you have grown in this process, but some of your answers of, well, I'm trying, I'm going to do it. I've heard that before from you, and we still haven't seen that. So you have the big ideas, or, and everyone says that you have big ideas. Continue to implement them. But I think at this time, I think Ryan would be the best fit, even if it's just slightly more. But Ryan, I think that, again, your answer, I don't think you defended your choice of choosing Andrew very well. So if you're going to stick with him as ME, I think you guys both need a long talk alone and how to proceed with that. But I do vote for Ryan, if only slightly, very, very slightly.
All right. Sonia?
Well, I agree with Jason that Brendan, you're just this is your first run up, and I'm impressed that you write so much. That's cool, and I can tell from some of your answers that you weren't, these guys have run through it a couple of times, and you're still trying to figure out what it would be and what it would look like, and you weren't sure what the budget was and that sort of stuff, and some of the answers you just didn't know. And that's, so I would suggest run again and figure out how the whole place is running, and also spread out, so sports, you're really good at that. But it would be nice, and we've told Andrew this before too, it's learn about news, learn about the other stuff, and then I think you're good to go. But since we have 2 candidates who have more experience, so I'm gonna go with one of them and not you. But you had, part of me wants to say you guys both were so annoying in your answers that I would just vote for you just because, so there. But I'm not gonna do that. Even if it's not it's not, but but keep coming back. And so that leaves me with you guys. And I'm not as hard as I used to be. So I'm equally disappointed. But now what's happening is I'm now all of you are as old as my kids. So I'm oh goodness, really? That's your answer? Really? Because you're hurting me. So I'm not nearly as nasty, but I still have those same nasty opinions. I'm just not as bitchy about them. So I'm just appalled that floods happen on campus, and I swear I saw the one tweet that went out. I'm when this happened? When? Yesterday. I'm well, if I had known about it, I would have used that as a tip sheet for myself if I had known really in any type of real time. And I were working, I think I was off that day, but If I had known, I would have been all over it. And if you train people if you put out news, breaking news, and you care about it and you put it online, because I know from my blog, people, if you get them in the habit of coming to the space, because you're always updating the space and you at least keep some modicum of coverage on breaking news, then when real news happens, they'll go, oh, I bet the UP will have something on it. And the right answer, by the way, is, oh, it's 7 o'clock and it's flooding on my campus. Tweet. Make sure that all your other people are following you, like you guys follow each other, and other people are retweeting you. And then meanwhile, somebody should have said, I really was also impressed that Andrew said that you went on, because that is not in your wheelhouse. So I was like, oh, wow, that's a little out of his zone. And the answer would have been to say, Andrew, yeah, you don't know if it's a retention pond or not. But it doesn't matter because people are wearing waders in the library. So perhaps we should write 3 paragraphs now to state the obvious. You didn't even need a source. The water is knee deep in the library. Don't go in there. It seems to be everywhere. And you could look on the Weather Service, because the Weather Service now, it's that's a public resource. I used to cover weather, so you're in trouble now. You can go to the website and see, like, Robert Moyet at the National Weather Service says, oh, there's a flood advisory in Boca, there's a flood advisory in Jupiter, we've had a bazillion flipping lightning strikes. Don't go waving anywhere, don't go out anywhere. You could have stopped people from coming, God forbid they were thinking they were going to the library the next morning. You could have stopped them from coming if you had sent them, and, if you had posted your job the night before, and all you had to do was it seems like, I wish, Andrew, you would have thought to yourself, nobody's going to tell me to file now, but perhaps I should file now. And Ryan, if you had anything to do with it, somebody should have said, boy, Andrew, perhaps you should file something now and we'll get some of the details later. It's not like bad reporting to say it's deep in rain. If you can witness it, it is real. It doesn't matter if it's a retention pond or somebody. I mean, there was flooding in the acreage years ago and people wanted to fight about who opened the floodgates and drained the lake. It didn't matter to the guy whose kitchen was flooded. It really didn't matter. He was just here to tell you he couldn't flush his toilets anymore and he couldn't stand in his living room. And so there's some, yes, you want to be authoritative, but when you can see it with your own eyes and you know that water should not be in the library floor, that's news. Respond. And if you're the multimedia guy, Ryan, and you can't, I have to tell you how to tweet it out. Like, really? A 50-year-old woman's telling you how to run Twitter. That's just bad. Trust me, that's bad. So, so now I'm stuck between voting. Now, I was happy to hear that if Ryan becomes editor, that he would have Andrew as his managing editor, because I know you guys have issues with Andrew's, and I'm worried too, if you're telling people to meet deadlines and you're not. That's not good. I'm not saying that's good. But I'm afraid that people are getting into a habit of like, I should like the guy who's running the show. And I'm here to tell you, this doesn't often happen. And sometimes the guy running the show is not somebody you like. But I think Andrew, despite his sometimes poor showing sometimes, and you're really actually much better at your interview than you were, it is just, like you said, your friends, you know that he's a real person, he's personable in real life. So I think you're put off, people are put off by you, but they, that's too bad. Sometimes that's just too bad. I like that you came up with new ideas. We said go find new ideas, and you did creative juices, good for you, blah, blah, blah. And Ryan, I'm like, I'm not sure whether being multimedia person, the problem was you didn't give me enough. Like, I'm reading your application, and I don't know what, it just is blah, 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 blah. We need to advertise ourselves more. We need to, go out and recruit people. Everybody, right, Carla? Everybody says, we need to recruit more people. In my day, we were saying, we need to recruit more people. He probably said, I need to go to classrooms and recruit more people. I think he said it like 3 times running. So I'm not sure that that's connect with them. So I think some combination of the two is going to work. The question is, is it better to have the guy who's got some big ideas in charge, and have the guy who can get along with the staff and make sure, like, I feel like even if you blow deadlines, he will make sure you won't blow deadlines. And you could be a check for one another, so I'm gonna vote for Andrew. Big ideas.
Emily.
You know, I feel like we've already talked about it, but you've all significantly undercut yourselves during this interview process. I just felt like you all really undersold yourselves. And on top of that, it's just a shame that two of you have done this before, and you've seen this before, and for none of you to talk to former editors or current editor, it's pretty awful. And the fact that some of you haven't talked to your staff is scary, because a lot of you are saying, oh, well, if they're graduating, but they're still in charge of the section right now, and they probably have a recommendation of where it's going to go. So I don't understand why you wouldn't speak to them. If we were just going off of numbers, Brendan would win easily. 59 stories is ridiculous, and a lot of them have been very solid, not just little gamers, and they've branched out of a section, and it's really impressive, and I think you should run again. I think you need more seasoning. I know that both Ryan and Andrew care a lot, and they're both eager, but I feel like both of you need to take on more ownership, not just with your sections, but with this newsroom. You both had new positions this semester. You had a new section, and you had the web. I feel like you both could have done a lot more than you actually did with it. Ryan, if your editorship looked like your semester, it would be a lot of big ideas, but little follow through. Andrew, I saw with your opinion section, you had 10 stories, and it's kind of mirroring what happened with science. And with science, your excuse was, well, there aren't as many science stories happening, but there are a ton of opinions out there, so I just don't understand why there were only 10 stories, and it concerns me. I feel like it wouldn't be bad for you to be opinions editor a little bit longer and have a product that you're more proud of and can flaunt more if you run again. You know what I mean? So my vote goes to Ryan right now. I feel like you all need each other right now, because you need things to be proud of and to grow on. I think Ryan just has the most knowledge of the infrastructure right now. But I think it's going to be neck and neck next week. And if you guys study, I think any of you could be a force to be reckoned with and could take that from Ryan really quickly.
Brendan, you could be editor easily if you didn't screw up your interview, because they screwed up their interviews. And what happens a lot of times, real selection panel or this one, is if the two candidates that are supposed to know better screw up, you just get pissed off and you go with the third person, even if they're brand new. Even if you're just running for this time for experience, you can be editor of this place if you just learn more between now and next week. Because if they don't, all eyes are going to turn to you, because they're just going to be vaguely pissed off that they wasted their time. And I know some of the selection people, real one personally, I know how they think. Andrew, you would be editor of this paper if you could just make a deadline on a headline, right? I mean, it's the stupidest thing in the world. And I've told you this before, but you are talented enough to make the hard shit look easy, and you're dumb enough that you can't even do the easy shit. You can never figure that out.
And you spoke really well this time. It was a lot
Yeah, and your
better.
interview was a lot better because, by the way, here's a little secret. If you don't know something, like all three of you did this at least. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, don't try to bullshit your way through it. Old people like us really hate that. We're almost closer to death than you are, and we just can't handle wasting our time. But really,
You're dying first.
you're I'll pull it out. That really hurt.
I didn't hear this talk about that.
The fact is that when Jason referenced Dylan Boucher being editor, it was a really stressful semester when he was editor. But you know what? I don't know that it was any worse than the semester before when we had an editor who got along with everybody. The paper was still wasn't very good. At least during the semester when Dylan was here, people were competitive and the journalism was a little better. And that's really what this is about. The reason that we kept interrupting you, and you will be interrupted again, when you talk about what happens here in the newsroom and who gets along with who, is no one cares. They care what the actual product is. That's what you're being trained to do, paid to do, and that's what the students want to see. You guys, the two of you, gave us a bunch of answers that imply you know nothing about this place. The most depressing thing all three of you said, in fact, was, yeah, paper's pretty good. Pretty good, fun. Yeah, no weaknesses. Really? she's written for all sorts of publications. Neil has, and I have. And I can tell you, whether it's the New York Times or Christian Science Monitor or wherever, nobody at any of those papers say, yeah, we're pretty good. We don't have anything, nothing else to do, nothing else to improve upon. They never say that. We are now left with this really weird conundrum that if we select any of you guys, it's going to be business as usual. Yeah, pretty much the same as happened there. What? We'll change some staff meetings. It'll be awesome. That's not what we're talking about. At least you had some big ideas. And the big ideas are the most important thing. And then second, for everyone that hates Andrew, I agree with you. I've been here late on Friday nights. I've seen him screw some things up that will cost him, that have already cost him editor. So Carrie, I agree with some of what you said because I've seen it. I've been here on a Friday night. And it makes me mad. Makes me mad because that's the only thing you have to do. And you would be editor. You are truly your own worst enemy. I've never, that's an expression, but for you, it is your credo. And it really is disappointing. So you want to vote for Ryan. But that's really hard to do, Ryan, because you had no insights that are going to inspire this group of people. They all voted for you, I think, because they like you. And you're a really nice guy. You never stole a freight train. We all love you. But the fact is that I don't know what's going to happen if you're editor of this place and it's Friday and deadline's all screwed up. Are you going to be able to make a decision and have these people respond to you? I don't know. I will say this. This place is about growing up. So when Dylan Boucher was editor and he had a rough time, he got a lot smarter after he was editor. Wes, if you stick around on a Friday night, you will hear Wes wax eloquently about his time as editor and what he's learned since then, right? Because you're supposed to grow into the job. So maybe you will grow into the job. But if I have to vote right now, I'm going to vote for Andrew. I voted for Andrew before, and everyone said, oh, you're just voting for Andrew because it's a protest vote. You're just being contrarian and difficult. No, I vote for Andrew because if he is editor, some people here are going to be really pissed off. And two things are going to happen. One of two things are going to happen. They're going to be pissed and they're going to leave. Or they're going to be pissed. They're going to stay here and they're going to work harder. Maybe stage a coup d'etat against Andrew, like happened against Lulu, which was awesome. For anyone who was here for that, it was great. It was very educational. That's what we're supposed to do here, right? We're supposed to learn some stuff. And then, frankly, anyone that leaves here because of a personality dispute probably needs to leave here. Because if you don't think there's going to be personality disputes in the real world, so
I agree.
Right. So I'm going to vote for Andrew, which means it's a tie, which means that the real selection committee, which, as Eileen explained, they don't have to listen to anything we say, but they do pay attention to it, right? So they're gonna hear this for the first time in all these years. It's a tie between these two people, and I know at least a couple of them are going to ask, why was it a tie?
Because there's almost someone else on the fucking down.
Do you usually vote for Redsky?
That's my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even with 4 people. Even when Sweeney was here, he didn't vote. Even with 4 people. In 5 years we've been doing it this way, it's up at a tie, which I think is weird. So it's a funny joke.
Usually it's 3-1.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
I'll pay him. I'll buy him here later. The last thing I'll say about this is, if I talk about this job is supposed to be inspiring people, I look around here and I think back when Jason ran, when Dory ran, when Carla ran, when Wes ran. I think of how many people were in this room from the staff and they were engaged. And you guys all want to be nice and all want to do more recruiting. And I think it's pretty sad that look at the percentage of people in this room right now that are alumni. Char, Dory, Carla, for all intents and purposes, Wes, Max, Mo even, right? I mean, look at the amount of people that are here from your staff that you apparently recruited because you were so nice, that you apparently talked to when they walk in the room. Where are they now? Student Affairs at one point wanted to move the real selection when it was here, even this mock one, out of this room because they were worried about a fire hazard because so many people were in here and it smelled so terrible. And now it's mostly full of alumni. So maybe, just maybe, the paper that you think is doing just fine isn't. A lot of the people that are here, some of them are graduating. You all pointed that out. Where are the new people that you said you were bringing in, that you were talking to? So now you're all going to go talk to one class.
I'm an English major. I found out about these meetings because somebody left one of the papers in the bathroom on one of those metal shelves.
Hey, I'll take it. So I will leave you with this thought.
Yeah, we got a new spot on the map.
Thank you for that explanation, Wes.
And welcome to the
You know, the first editor selection I came to, which I was not running, there was very few people in this room. And by the last time I ran, it was filled to the brim. And the reason they came in wasn't because we went to more classes. It was because of the content that we produced. It was the journalism that took place in the newspaper. So that got noticed, and that attracted people outside of the field of journalism. Joseph, you know, Kiriaki, all these people who had no interest in journalism suddenly had a very real interest in journalism because of the stories that we wrote. So that does matter a lot, much more than this process and who likes who, or because I had some nasty, down, ugly fights with other staff members, Lisa Lucas. Now we're best friends today because we were able to look past that. But we had some nasty fights.
Yeah, that's my last thought actually was going to be this, is that
Remember, Lisa?
the content is what, the content is what makes, content solves all problems. So the one thing I'm encouraged about this semester is whether that Spill story had flaws in it, which they always do, you're going to look back on this time 5 years from now and you're like, God, that story sucks, I'm so much better now. But the fact is that people stole the UP off the racks because they thought it had something to say. They thought it was good enough that other people were going to believe it. You don't steal something, you don't think, oh, no one reads the UP. Well, why are you actually taking it out of the racks and throwing them all away? No one reads it, leave them in the rack, right? So obviously, if you guys do good work, people will read it, and then they will come in. When Carla did a whole special issue on the Board of Trustees for this university, the financial overseers of this university, and found out that many of them had personal bankruptcies. Like they couldn't run their own money, they're supposed to run yours. Like stories like that bring people in, especially when the response, when SG people get all nasty and try to shut down the UP, try to change the locks on the doors, try to fire the editor. That brings more people in. So if you guys would focus a little more on that, if you would do your basic research, so when you sit in front of the real selection panel, you have ideas about what our budget is, just how to keep this place afloat, that is a chunk of your job. If you have some ideas for, I'll go speak to classes, it'll take me 10 minutes, I'm gonna do it, boom, done, not a big deal. I'm gonna focus most of my time, and you should have different ideas among you. I'm gonna focus most of my time on content, good stories, and not getting down on features or fiction and opinions, all important stuff, should definitely be done. But the stories that get people to come in, the stories that get us national headlines, the stories that get us national awards, most of them are news stories. And not boring SG stories, funny SG stories. Well, but funny, I mean, when they are embezzling money, misspending money, giving themselves Christmas bonuses, when they're, like, what the hell is that? That's the story, all right? So we can talk after, we're done, 2 to 2. I hope that you will do, all of you guys will do one thing now, besides whatever you have to do for the next issue of the paper. I hope you use this opportunity to talk to each other about what you want to see the UPB after this. And I would also say this for the 3 people that are up here running, it's a pain in the ass to do this. There's a very jeopardy effect of this. Okay, when you sit over there and you watch these guys up here, you're like the Nile River, just say it, you're an idiot. Because you think you know all the answers when you're not sitting in the uncomfortable chair. So to you guys, as always, I appreciate everything that you guys have to go through to run for this. So thank you very much. And like they say in the bar, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So.
Oh my gosh, she just said, we went to
I kind of started this last week, but I want to say
I tried to be very
And I got to learn this last
I